Hello, good morning, Real Chat. Hi. Good morning. Did you guys see your new emotes and your subscriber badges? Did anybody try the tank or the nuke yet? Has anybody tried the nuke emote? No. Try it. It's cute. I'm just saying. Haha, yes. And I forgot I gave you Fidel too. I gave you Fidel. You have a subscriber badge. Haley, it's on you. You're a Nukie. If you subscribe, you're officially a Nukie. And it pops up next to your name. Right? That's us building a better world. Do you like my Fidel? Yeah, I draw them. Stuff is different. It's a cigar, chat. It's not 420. It's a Cuban cigar. It's a little 420 loaded, though. I see it. I give you Zay. Yes. I give you some things. Why do subs have the Nukie thing? Well, because we're Nukies. Chat, I've added some enrichment for your enclosure. Exactly. Do you like? I can make more if you would like. Whatever you want. I make for you. Did you like that? You're welcome. Your favorite landlord for some chat using the Carl. Hi. It's okay. It's okay to be too poor for the Nukie emote. Maybe someone will gift you. We have a good gifting community. You're a brokey. That's okay, Big Gakko. You're a Nukie in our hearts. You're maybe the most Nukie out of all of us, Big Gakko. Sorry, we're over on the real stream, the Twitch stream. Nukie, what does it mean? We've surpassed Tanky. We've now become Nukie. That's our chat, our live stream. We're Nukie. Not Tanky, Nukie. Who's the person bullying? This trans man who makes beaded necklaces and clearly doesn't understand how social situations work because he's very autistic. And he's kind of a theater kid. And everybody's like, he's the devil and he must die. It's pretty crazy. It's like what they did to me. I'm like, but for me, I didn't do anything wrong except for have perfect politics. For him, all he did was be like kind of cringe and not understand social situations. Like, he's not like an evil person. But like my For You page has been like literally like 10,000 videos about this guy. Yes, exactly, Glitter. That's his name. It's crazy. I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? It's crazy. I'm like, okay, so he's a little weird and doesn't understand social. What is that? It's fucking weird. People are obsessed. Yes, your favorite millionaire racist landlord Russian asset live, paid by North Korea. This stream brought to you by Kim Jong-un, my husband. I'm also very straight and in love with Kim Jong-un. Yes. Yeah, it's just very weird. I think it's like, just let people be fucking weird, man. Just let people be theater kids. Sometimes out in the world, you're going to encounter somebody who you can tell was a theater kid. And you're just going to have to learn to be okay with that. It's actually not that big of a deal. They're just like that. And it's fine. They're not hurting anybody. And other theater kids like it. Right? So, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Haley knows what I'm talking about. Sometimes you're just gonna, be a theater kid, band kid. Like, I was a debate kid. For the love of God, I would have been a theater kid, except I wasn't allowed in theater because the drama teacher didn't like me because he said I was so verbally abrasive, he feared I might become physically abusive in the class. And I was like, so you're scared of me? He did not like that. Yeah. Right. Come on. Like, just let people be fucking theater kids sometimes, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a theater kid reject. I wanted to be a theater kid and couldn't. Like, that's even worse, arguably. Right? Okay, it's time to... Okay. Hello, Larry. I also fixed our tank, so our tank rolls the right way, guys. Did you see that? I did that for you. You're a failed theater kid, too. Exactly. Like, if you're consuming content creation, everybody is in some proximity to theater kid. So to be weird that someone's like ultra theater kid on the app where theater kids get paid less than minimum wage to entertain you I think that's a little, it's like Fort Fountain Kitchen. Like, what did you expect? Very, very weird. Very weird. Jamie was a theater kid. Failed theater kid, Mel May. Thank you. Okay. So, sorry. The tank's rolling in now. It's not rolling out. The tank's going the other direction now. So, how many people do we have over here in real chat? Do I need to start recruiting? How are we doing over here? 137. Okay, we can do better. I'm not wearing makeup today. I'm looking a little furry country home. You know, it's not so good. Oh, you got Juice's Day. Juice Day with Juice Day Julia. Oh my God, you got Julia. I love Julia so much. Oh, it's going to be so exciting. So after this, you guys have to go to Larry. Larry's going to have a banger stream. Julia's going to be on. We love Julia. Car did the costume design for theater. Yeah. Come on. Oh, hi, Zay. Get the Zay emote ready. Uh-oh. Yeah? Oh, you gonna attack me? Yeah? Can you hear her? It's crazy. Do I ever get scared being so open about my politics? Not usually, but the reason is fucked up. It's like the people who the United States government views as the biggest threat to them are black communists. Black communists. If you were black, you were a threat to the United States government. If you were a communist, you were a threat to the United States government. So if you're not a black communist, you're a white communist. I kind of feel like it's your duty to be very outspoken. You know, because the U.S. government fears, the U.S. government where I live in particular, fears a what they call a black messiah, right? A black communist who's going to come together and unite the working class white and black masses against the government. That's what they're afraid of. And that's why they killed Fred Hampton, right? Because he was that. He was going to be that. He was so young. So, yeah, that's... And the United States government talks about this in their documents, like, a lot. So, yeah, you know, communists get it bad. Black activists get it bad. Black communists get it the worst. So, you know, it's like, if you're a white communist, I think it's kind of weird to be like, and they're out to get me. I was like, yeah, they're kind of out to get to you. You a little bit, yeah. And I said these ones before. I was like, okay, everybody's being mean to me on TikTok during the 2024 election. And people were like, how are you handling this? People are being like really, really mean to you on TikTok. And I'm like, they literally fucking killed Fred Hampton. I can handle people being weird to me on the internet. You know what I mean? It's just like perspective. Yeah. You're volunteering tomorrow, Melanie. Nice. Yep, and MLK was going for the left, was getting more into socialism and communism. Exactly. It's very, very scary. I mean, look at the U.S. government. They tell you what their biggest threat is black communists. Out here in California, who's had the greatest success in radicalizing the masses and building something? Black communists, Black Panther Party. Yep, there's a reason Black Panthers are considered terrorists. Exactly. So, Malcolm X. Yep, exactly. 75 stream streak, tiniest boob. Wow, love it. We love it. All right. So people are talking about Angela. Angela Davis is a communist, yes, but kind of different. Angela Davis didn't join the Black Panthers for a reason. She had slightly more, I would say, academic notions of communism. And that doesn't mean she didn't do activism work in her young days. She certainly did, but especially as she's gotten older, we've seen her almost fall into that Frankfurt kind of school of communist ideology that's more theoretical and academic and less practical. So, you know. Yeah, you got sub badges. Yes, I gave you sub badges, Kubashi. So, okay. You guys over here, if you're still over here on TikTok, this is where I start inviting you to come over to our Twitch stream. So, over on Twitch, if you like live streaming, I'm just going to say, you can really tell TikTok just, like, added live streaming as a feature, like, half-assed and didn't really develop it that well. Over on Twitch, it's an app, like, it's a platform built for live streaming, and you can really tell. The reason I live stream on Twitch instead of on TikTok is because the platform's just better. You can show things more easily, you can search for things, you can pull up evidence. If you guys ask me questions, I can, like, show you things. So I think it's just a better platform for live streaming. So if you enjoy watching live streamers on your phone, I would say go over to Twitch. It can be a little overwhelming when you first get there. But if you just search for a user and just go straight to their stream, you'll get the hang of it really fast. So we're live streaming right now on Twitch. I'm going to hang up here soon, so you should come join us on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton, and we're going to be talking about politics, current events, from a left-wing political perspective. So if you feel like you're a little overwhelmed, or there's stuff you don't know about the world, or you're very confused about who all these communists are and why there are so many communists now, we talk about all this stuff, and you'll probably learn. Annie Rex to learn more about Taiwan, Walmart drug lord. Yes. Hold that thought. I like that question. So, come on. Academic versus practical notions of communism. It has to do with the Frankfurt School and this thing called the CCF. If you come over to the Twitch stream, we can talk about it, because I'm going to be getting off of here soon. So it's a little too long for this. Co says the socialism button is actually over on twitch.tv. So true. Consent is lib BS and we should have arranged marriages. That can't be real. The ACP's not even that debased, are they? Unbased. Debased. I can't believe they would even say that. 197. Somebody on the TikTok stream said someone in the ACP told them that consent is lib BS and they should just have arranged marriages. I mean, I'm like, that seems even too insane for the ACP. That can't be real. Zay's being so cute. Hi, baby girl. Hello. Yes. Red Scare, including you. First time chat. Welcome. Yes, I know. It's crazy. Yes, of course we kept Rat. Rat is there. Okay. So you guys come join us over here on Twitch. Move on over to Twitch. Move on over to Twitch. Twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. We'll talk about all the politics your heart desires. La Rata. Thank you, Lena's Best Gay, for getting that resource. I was interested in that. We're at 200. We're at 200. Okay. So I'm going to hang up here. Okay, everybody? So come join us over there if you're interested. We can talk about it all. We're going to do it all. You're going to love it. You're going to like it better. I'm hanging up now. Whee! Hi, everybody. How is everyone today? Gifty! Thank you, Ghost Pain, for gifting. One of the ACP leaders is a corporate lawyer that defends multinational banks from getting sued? Really? Interesting. Oh, man. Ground.news. No, I haven't. A lot of people have that theory, Pisces Troll. High protein gains. Hello. Can't wait to go to Cuba. Yeah, it's amazing. You were in ACP for a bit. Are you with a different, better party now? I hope. Who are new here, welcome. We call this Double Down. We talk about the news. We will be talking about the news today. It is Tuesday. We don't have any special features. Oh, audio. Sorry. Because Zay's in here, so the cord is getting messed with. Hold on, she's leaving though. I might. It is the cable. It is the cable getting knocked loose when Zay is around. That's what it is. Hold on. We're figuring it out. Zay, hi. No, do not jump on this computer, young lady. See, the thing that people don't tell you about gender is that it's really for animals only. She's rubbing against the microphone. Warning. Oh, no, don't. No. Coochie Kong, your friend's right. Your friend's right. Yeah, we can talk about that. You're a Nuki now. Yay. Yes, Kitty ASMR. It was her face. She's nuzzling against it. I don't want to kick her out, but she's going to mess with the microphone, but she's so cute. Oh, per usual. Hello, Zay. Oh, she's a good girl. Yes. I'm petting her. I'm so allergic to her. She's a good girl. She's on her back with her paws in the air and her face is on the USB cord. I'm not allowed to talk about the Trump White House thing. Can I show the bowl I used to carry? Free hand. Free hand, baby. Look at that. Is it beautiful? No bowl required. That's how good we are. Animals are gender, not food. Thank you, Conrad Thuggin. This is what I'm saying. This is the future the communist vegans want. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with a general Q&A. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the timer, and we are just going to answer random questions. They can be about anything, and we're going to do that before we get started with today's regular programming. Okay? We're on 10 minutes. Ask your questions now. Walmart drug lord, no, we haven't tried the special allergy kibble. We can't because Zay has a disability, so she has to eat in a specific way. What is the point of the timer if we ignore the timer? We don't ignore the timer. We use the timer as a suggestion, not a hard rule. Why are we pretending Fresno is real? I will not take this. Fresno does not have the right to exist slander. Fresno has the right not only to exist, but also to defend itself. From you, Big Yahoo. Fresno will defend itself from you, the enemy. Thoughts on Midwestern Marks? You know, I used to like the content he was putting out. It's a shame he got wrapped in with the ACP kooks. Favorite DPRK leader? I'm thinking Kim. Well, Kim. How do you not say Kim Il Sung? Is the thing. How do you not say Kim Il Sung? I was thinking Kim Jong Un is. There's something about him. I see why the people like him. Also, Kim Jong Nam. Nobody ever talks about him, but he was just like a solid. He was a solid leader. Everybody respected. He was very chill and consistent, and he did a very good job. He was more bureaucratic, I think, in his approach. So Kim Jong-nam, I liked a lot. Not to be confused with Kim Jong-nam. I once made that mistake. Somebody was talking about Kim Jong-nam, and I was like, Kim Jong-nam. And no. They were a slopper, and I was talking about the real person. Thoughts on council communism. I actually used a lot of council communism ideology in how I set up my worker collective. Our worker collective. So I think there's practical application for the individual artisan workspace scenario, but I don't think I think it's only practical for running a worker collective under capitalism. I don't think it's an alternative to essentially planned economy and Marxist-Leninist thought. I have watched The Boys. I'm actually rewatching The Boys right now. I just started season 2 last night, so it's funny you asked that. What should you do if you want to start streaming? What's the first step? I would say don't buy anything to start. Just start streaming on your phone. It's free. It's easy until you build up a little bit of an audience. What do you think the rise in tradwife clothing is related to politics? Yes, it's always related to politics. It's the rise of fascism, very, very clearly. Also, life is getting really, really hard, right? When life gets hard, people fantasize about what they think is an easy way out. For women, the easy way out that's been sold to you is like your husband will go to work and manage the money because money's so stressful for you, and then you just stay home and you have this idyllic life with your kids. But they don't talk about the reality of that, which is that if that's even plausible, which who knows how plausible it is in society today, you're bound to this man because you don't have independence, you don't have your own source of income. There's a reason why after communist revolutions, one of the first things that people try to do is solve the woman problem, to get women in the public sphere and have them not stuck at home basically with these men, these husbands who are like the kings of their own little castle, imposing hierarchy and violence upon the women there. Ghost in this Hell, can we watch this? Save the TikTok. I'm going to do a segment. We're going to have 2 segments where we do watch things. We're going to do one while the poll is up, and we're going to do one at the end. How does North Korean election and party structure work? So the party is different than the government. The party members elect their own leadership, and in the government, it's the same way most Marxist-Leninist governments work, which is that you elect your representatives at a very small level, your like neighborhood representatives. They get together, they elect somebody amongst them to go up to the next level, and it goes all the way like that. All the way up. And then the assembly in the DPRK is who elects the head of the cabinet, like the entire cabinet actually, and also the president of the State Affairs Commission, who is Kim Jong-un. A quick summary of U.S. propaganda regarding communism and Uyghurs. Yes. Donald Trump invented a conspiracy theory about Uyghurs because the United States has been trying to separate China and do a divide and conquer technique. That's what we love. That's what we did in Vietnam. That's what we did in Korea. That's what we were always trying to do, divide and conquer. So we're trying to stoke separatist movements all throughout China. And Xinjiang, we've tried multiple attempts. We did this weird cotton myth there that didn't land. And we're doing this Uyghur internment thing that doesn't land. So yeah, Donald Trump basically paid a right-wing religious kook from Germany named Adrian Zahn $625,000 to come up with this bullshit report and say that a genocide was happening against the Uyghurs there. It's not real. That's not a real thing. And I actually have a resource document. If you go to tinky.org, there's a resource document under the resource documents list, like part, if you scroll, it's all reading materials on this, so you can see how ridiculous it is. Do you have a list of businesses like mine? No, I don't. Pisces Troll isn't real. Fresno's real. Pisces Troll isn't real. Yes. King Hazard, you like Eddie, that's why you joined XP. Yeah, I mean, Eddie's the most palatable out of them. I like Eddie the best out of all those guys. The May 1st general strike. There's going to be a general strike on May 1st. Please participate. Don't go to work. Don't buy things. I think my company, we're going to do like, I might do like a donation based thing. Like if you buy, part of the money goes to the strikers. I have to figure that out though, and I don't have a lot of time, so we'll see. Kim Jong-un does have that Kim Il-sung energy. He's also just intensely likable. You know? Okay, cannibalism is wrong. My favorite Kim moment for Kim Jong-un, my favorite moments are probably the thing I like the best is that video on TikTok. I'm sure you guys saw it. That's a compilation of Kim Jong-un next to Donald Trump versus a compilation of Kim Jong-un talking to Xi Jinping. And every time he's next to Donald Trump, he's just like stink face, sour face, just like so mad. And you see him with Xi Jinping and he's like, I love that. I think that's very, very funny. I love it. Babies first, what's the deal with Taiwan? Taiwan was, in the year 1600, Taiwan became a part of China, and then Japan colonized it. And when Japan lost during World War II, they were forced to give up their colonial holdings. That included Korea and Taiwan, which Formosa is what it had been called. So Taiwan was returned to China. And then pretty soon after the World War II ended, a civil war broke out between the communists and these right-wing fringe freak nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek. The communists won, and Chiang Kai-shek refused to accept they lost. So he went to Taiwan, which is an island, and he's like, no, we actually won, and Taiwan is the new capital headquarters of China, and we're in charge of all of China from here now. And the communists just kind of let Taiwan develop its own government based off of that. But it's like, come on, you're part of us. And so Taiwan's never not, like, with the exception of Japanese colonial rule, it's been a part of China since the year 1600. Only 4% of people in Taiwan today want to immediately declare independence from China. Most people just want things to stay the way they are. They have a lot of autonomous self-governance. But, like, Taiwan can't make independent deals with, like, other countries or things like that. It's not its own country. Nobody recognizes it as its own country. The West just tries to make you think that Taiwan actually is its own country and China's trying to take it over. None of that's true. Taiwan is a part of China, and 4% of the population are fringe right-wing separatist extremists, and the United States wants to back them. So, all right, that's what's going on. You had to mute 2 chatters for spamming Fresno comments. I'm so sorry, Larry. My Fresno rubs off on you. Will my company be open on May Day? It's all online. So, yeah, it's going to be open. And also, we do a lot of international business, you know. So, yes, it will be open on May Day. When will Cash Patel get fired? I don't know, but they're trying to stage like an intervention and say he's an alcoholic and all of that. Any tips for getting organized in a small town? Don't write off churches. Don't write off religious institutions. They can be your friend. And start with building a people-to-people approach, right? Do nice things for your community. Give them a reason not to hate the communists. They might hate communism, but give them a reason not to hate the communists. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm scrolling. I missed a lot. I'm so far up. Yeah, crying about the comfort women, yes. I'm still scrolling. I don't have any beef with Hassan Piker. We don't have the same politics necessarily, but I will say that is the only content creator with a really large following who's ever been normal to me on the internet. Given the opportunity to throw me under the bus in front of his followers, he never will. He never has, and that makes me inclined to defend that man. Even though I know we have different politics, he knows we have different politics. He could have done a very easy cop out and thrown the commie under the bus, and he never did. And so I think that I like that. That speaks of his character. I also appreciate his defense of the USSR. Yes, as Larry says. Yes. The Taiwanese guy you used to date stole money from you and told you China killed a ton of his people. Yeah, so he probably knew some fringe extremists, or he was an American who'd been heavily propagandized, or a Westerner who'd been very propagandized about that situation. China kills it. I don't know. It's usually a pretty kook right-wing opinion to have. Yeah, Hassan doesn't punch left, and I respect that a lot. And that's why we say, Engels said, we will work with democratic socialists as long as they don't throw us under the bus. Every single time they throw us under the bus, though. And Hassan is a democratic socialist who's not thrown. I've never seen Hassan throw communists under the bus like that. Even when he says shit that I'm like, I don't agree with that. Like when he talks about the DPRK and I'm like, I don't agree with that assessment. He'll be like, I'm a lib on DPRK. Like it's always with that kind of caveat that it's like, well, it's me and my perspective. And I'm like, that I appreciate and respect. And that is how you actually build left unity. So in the spirit of that, you will catch me talk about our political differences, certainly. But I'm not going to throw that person under the bus. They wouldn't do that to me. So I think that's good. I like that. He apologized to Kim Jong-un on Twitter. There you go. All right, see? Yeah, so I respect that. All right, timer's up. We did it, see? And I wasn't in the middle of a rant. Perfect. 10-minute Q&A. Closed chats. I hope you all got everything you wanted out of that Q&A session. Yes, Virgo, what's your suggestion? I would love a suggestion. I'm ready for it. No more questions for the rest of the stream. Oh, anti-DPRK. We have article suggestions. Okay, so we're starting it. So here's how it's going to go, everybody. If you're new or if you missed yesterday, we got a new system. The top 5 articles recommended will be what we consider for our vote. Don't send them yet. Virgo sent one. Virgo can do that. Mod privileges. So when I say to send your links, you have a second to get your links collected and ready for what you want to talk about today. And if you're brand new here, everybody submits news stories for what they want to talk about, and we do a read through together of the news. So that is what we're about to do. So if you have a story you would like to talk about, give yourself a few seconds to pull it up to find it, and I'll tell you when. Be prepared, but not quite yet. The first, Virgo sent one. Virgo's going to get a mod privilege on that for all of their unpaid labor for our community. So, everybody else, there's going to be 4 more openings. Are you ready? Are you ready? Mod privileges. Okay, go. Everybody send whatever you got. If anybody's got anything else. And if you don't have 4, I'll find something for us. Autistic baddie. 3. I feel like the 3 is an important part of the username to get the full experience. Rice ball basket. Hello. Smash Ultra coming in. Yes. We got room for one more. One more, anybody? Anybody ready? Are you ready? Dun 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 dun. I'll keep doing it. I'll do the whole thing. Got it, Tofu Core. All right, let me make sure there's no dupes here. Let's see. Streaming Friday. Yes, I will be streaming on Friday. That's strike day? I'll still be streaming. We're radicalizing the masses. We are radicalizing the masses. The work for communism never stops, comrades. All right. So the options we have here: North Korea as it is, the case for a cold peace. Okay, I like it. Interesting. Then we have Bernie Sanders convinced Democrats against arming Israel. Interesting. Especially because Bernie Sanders doesn't hate Israel; he just hates Netanyahu. Then we have violence escalates in Colombia with dozens of attacks before the presidential vote. Oh, we're trying to do a color revolution. Oil giant BP announces huge rise in profits in first results since Iran war. That's crazy. And then Philippines has 2 U.S. citizens among 19 killed in raid. Okay, these are very interesting stories, and we have no duplicates today. So, Virgo, if you are ready, here is how we're doing it. North Korea. Bernie Sanders. Colombia. Oil companies. And Philippines. Yes. Yeah, I also use my streaming money a lot for activism stuff. That's like the fund for things if I need to travel somewhere or buy supplies for something. That's what this money is used for a lot of times. So it's commie money. It exists as commie money for me. Flipping through full headlines for your voting. The poll is up. If you do not see it, refresh. It's at the top of your chat. I'm flipping through for everybody. Does anybody, while the voting is going on, have a short video they would like to share for everyone's amusement? Please send it now. Vote or USA Gulag, Burger Gulag, for-profit, core civic funded private prison group. That's Burger Gulag. Vote or Burger Gulag. Wahahahahaha. All right. Who's got any videos they want to share with us while we wait? Not a Rickroll. I believe you, Car. I believe you. Educational officer references pop culture. Let's see.
Donald Trump, Drake, Adolf Hitler, and people who think Michael Jordan is the GOAT of basketball are all aligned in their use of the principle of fascism to advance their agendas. One of the core tenets of fascism is palingenetic ultranationalism, a term coined by British political scientist Roger Griffin. He defines it as the claim by fascist governments that the current society must undergo a national rebirth to return to an idealized version of the society that came before it. With Hitler, it's not hard to see how palingenetic ultranationalism plays into his rhetoric. It's why he called his government the Third Reich, with the First Reich being the Holy Roman Empire and the Second Reich being the 50-ish years before the end of World War I. With his promise to establish the Third Reich, Hitler was promising to return Germany to its status before the Treaty of Versailles. And Michael Jordan fans aren't really that different. They leverage palingenetic ultranationalism when they say things like LeBron wouldn't survive in Jordan's era by painting the era that Jordan played in as a more skilled era of basketball that we should aspire to return to. In a sense, the relationship between Hitler and the Holy Roman Empire is analogous to that between Michael Jordan fans and the 90s Bulls dynasty. And the same is true of Donald Trump. His administration uses the imagery of 1950s America to promote an idealized, sanitized version of the past that we should all want to go back to. But there's another element of fascism that he employs in his rhetoric, arguably more so than Hitler and LeBron deniers. In his 2018 book, How Fascism Works, Professor Jason Stanley marks the perpetual victim mentality as a core tenet of fascism. In his words, rectifying unjust inequalities will always bring pain to those who benefited from such injustices. This pain will inevitably be experienced by some as oppression. This is why the Trump administration frames things like the end of apartheid in South Africa and DEI policies in America as being anti-white. His ideology requires that he conflate equality with discrimination. Similarly, Drake, both during and in the aftermath of his feud with Kendrick Lamar, employed both of these fascist tactics quite shamelessly. With regards to palingenetic ultranationalism, at the end of The Heart Part 6, Drake credits himself with bringing Kendrick out of retirement and bringing the competitive spirit back to hip-hop, which in a sense is the national rebirth that Griffin speaks about. And with regards to perpetual victimhood, Drake continuously tried to position himself as the underdog during the beef, even though he's one of the most streamed artists in the world. He called the beef a 20v1, said the critics were unfairly biased towards Kendrick, and said that Kendrick had the strength of the US legal system behind him, even though Drake tried to sue him only a couple months later. Now, I'm not saying that Drake or people who think that Michael Jordan is the GOAT are fascists. But what I am saying is that this rhetoric is a lot more common than we think, which is why it goes so under the radar when actual fascists use it. Donald Trump.
Okay, wow. All right, so North Korea won the poll. I like this guy. Usually, doesn't he talk a lot about? I'm gonna check his pronouns. About linguistics. Yes, that is correct. Yes. Wait, it doesn't fucking show you. It doesn't show you pronouns. Okay. I'm gonna they Donald until Trump. Proven otherwise. I think it's really interesting. I think that I do have a critique about the liberal use of core tenets of fascism, because these things aren't core tenets of fascism, nor byproducts of fascism, but that's me being pedantic and obnoxious. So I think it's really interesting. I do like this person. I think that that's a good explanation though, like, because the actual like core tenets of fascism is empowering the state, because the idea is that the state empowers all. And then there's the economic components, obviously, which is corporatism and giving more power to corporations on like a corporate board, right? So those are actually the core tenets of fascism, but there are all of these interesting byproducts that come about, because how do you convince a person that they should prioritize the state above themselves? And the way you do that is by telling them what's good for the state is good for them. Okay, so how do you convince them what's good for the state is good for them? Well, you convince them that what's currently happening without the state having that much prominence in their life, right? That national identity. The more you don't have that national identity, things are going bad. So how do you do that with the perpetual victimhood kind of a thing? Well, you're a victim of these people who want to take away your national identity from you, right? So I think that that's very, very interesting. That's my one little critique of it, is that that's a byproduct, not the intended goal. But yeah, I like this person. And they do very interesting linguistic work also. which I love as a person who has an aggressive Valley Girl accent, that I actually have to temper like a lot when I go on stream on TikTok because people make fun of my voice so much. So, that. All right. We are doing so well on time chat. We're really getting to the point so much faster than usual. And I'm so proud of everybody for voting for North Korea for today's content. The YouTube viewers will be pleased. When are we doing this? What is this? We'll watch this. Yeah, natural Madeline gets like very, very Valley Girl. Like it's very intense. And then when I'm around other Valley Girls, it gets like even more intense. And I have to temper it. I literally have to temper it. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Well, let's get the California accent. It's like an Okie accent. Because of migration patterns for farmers. That was a good submission. I'm amped. And then somebody said another thing we can talk about with DPRK today, which we will also do. Yeah, somebody actually recommended this the other day, and this is interesting, and I wanted to read that. So that's going to be good too. So we're having a whole North Korea day. You're going to leave here. You're going to go over to Larry's stream. Larry's going to have Julia on. We're going to have a Jushay DPRK day. We're going to talk about the United States trying to do horrible things to DPRK over and over and over again, and then potentially also maybe just being like, hey, this is not useful to us. Let's just let them be. Which I hope it's a Jushay's day. Juice's day. Marxist Gamer Zero gives one more to us, unrelated. Privilege of Nuki icon.
Man, recently a lot of my family members and people in my life been telling me like, you gonna get killed for the things you say. And nigga, I say, so be it. They kill me, know I did something right. I'd rather die in the arms of liberation than live under the foot of subjugation. God damn it. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. I am merely a vessel, a torch bearer for a long lineage of people who fought for this world to be better. I have no fear of my oppressor, only disdain. I only fear God. This is revolutionary suicide. I do not seek death, but I accept that it is a risk that comes when you fight for change, because somebody has to do it. Revolutionary may be a man or a woman, but the revolution is the spirit of humanity, and spirits do not die. I'll never stop, and I'll keep saying it, nigga. Fuck Mossad. Fuck Israel. Fuck the police. Fuck capitalism. Fuck these jobs. Fuck these houses. Fuck these cars. Fuck these schools. Fuck these institutions. Fuck everything that they give to us. Because for us to have under this system, rivers of blood must run. And I will never accept that.
I'm pretty amped. I get it. The violence, the institutionalized and commonly accepted violence of capitalism, friends. Nobody wants to talk about that. How bloody, how violent. And, also it's always, I'm just going to say this before we get into it, it's always a very comfortable white liberals who want to tell you have to vote Democrat or you're a bad person. Right? And you're like, well, yeah, because the system's not killing you. This current system's not killing you. You have to imagine a more exaggerated version of the current system before it starts to affect you. But what if they take away abortion rights? What if they take away the limited, very tiny legal protections that gay people have in the United States before it starts to affect you? You're not thinking about the people who are already dying, who are already being sacrificed to the gods of capitalism. You're not thinking about black men imprisoned for crimes they very often didn't commit or crimes that should not be considered crimes. Right? You're not thinking about them under capitalism. You're not thinking about the million people who are unsheltered, unhoused under capitalism. You're not thinking about people who are rationing insulin under capitalism. You're like, what if, though, we had something hypothetically worse that actually affected me? Or people I know. Like 3 people I know. And I think that's always very interesting. Yes, white liberal women can literally only care about abortion and not enough women with high salaries. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's totally true. And I say this as a person who has benefited from abortion. My abortion saved my life. I loved having my abortion. That was great. It's horrible that people don't have access to abortion. People, like, black women in the rural South already don't have access to abortion, though. You know? Many people don't have access to healthcare to even know they are pregnant soon enough to get an abortion, let alone have transportation to the abortion location if they do have it legally guaranteed where they are. Like, there are all these structural things that affect your right to get an abortion, your ability to get an abortion. And for like a liberal middle class white woman, she doesn't even think about those things. She doesn't imagine what it would mean to live in a rural area without access to transportation. She doesn't imagine what it would mean to not have access to healthcare to the extent that you don't even know you're pregnant, right? So I don't know. I think these things are very, very fascinating. So to her, she's like, but what if a politician got on TV and said that he wanted to take away? To many, many women in the United States, abortion has already been taken away. They never had it to begin with, not as a guaranteed right like that. Not as something accessible or easy to access, certainly. Very interesting. Your country criminalizes abortion. It's horrible. Yeah. Abortion is healthcare, exactly. And we don't have free healthcare. We don't have access to healthcare like that. So, very, very fascinating. All right. So with that said, let's get into North Korea. Let's get some updates on the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the one true Korea, the unoccupied Korean territory, right? Ghost in the Cell says a liberal white woman worrying about abortion while her government funds the deaths of children in other countries and at home. Yeah, it's very sad. Get me into let me in, DPRK. Let me in. I want in there. All right, so let's get into this wonderful story that Virgo provided for us today from Foreign Affairs Mag. North Korea as it is: the case for a cold peace, by Victor Cha. And this was published this week, April 21st, 2026. And Victor Cha, just so we know who we're listening to here, is a university professor at Georgetown University, president of Geopolitics and Foreign Policy Department at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He served as a director for Asian Affairs of the U.S. National Security Council from 2004 to 2007, and on the Defense Policy Board and as an advisor for the Secretary of Defense from 2021 to 2025. You guys are going to see my allergies start to act up really bad. I can already feel it starting. He's a co-author with Raymond Pacheco Pardon of Korea, A New History of South and North. Okay, so we are going to get a State Department perspective. And I think this is going to be really interesting going into this because probably I'm guessing they will talk about how this is not even strategic. Our obsession with hating North Korea is not even strategic for the United States at this point. Zay is nuzzling the cord. Hello. I'll take a Zyrtec after we record. Did you see Kitty Tail? No tea today. My throat's not that bad yet. Oh, but we'll see. Hello, pretty girl. You got gulags? Audio went out a little. Sorry. Look at her. She's so cute, though. Hi. She's purring up a storm. She purr up storm. All right. So let's get into this perspective. I'm very, very interested in that. Is this your first time seeing Zay? Yeah, isn't she so cute? Yeah, hi. There's a good compilation somebody made of her attacking me 3 times on stream. It was very, very funny. Hi, hello. She's so cute. She's very cute. What are you doing? What? Ugh. She's so sweet. Yeah. This is my partner's cat, not my cat. I'm new to catting. This is my first experience with a cat. Is this cat? Yeah, I abuse her. Yes. Okay. So, getting into the text. I'm just going to kind of format this so you guys can see the whole screen. I know it's a little small for you, so I'm sorry, but the way it has to be formatted for archive is that it won't like wrap properly. I know. My allergies are going to be so bad. I know. Oh, Marxist Gamer Zero has we'll watch the compilation before we get started. This will be it. This will be the last thing we watch before we get started, because it is pretty funny.
So, the second conclusion... Oh, no, come on. No, I need that. I don't need right now. You can't. Come on. Do you see what I'm saying? Sissy, come on, girly pop. You're going to have to move. I know it's warm and you like it. You have to move. Come on. I think the cat just lives here now. I don't think I can move her. She's really mad. She's very violent. Say, come on. Yeah, I know. I don't want to move you either, but you have to. The one thing about her, she does listen to reason. She does talk a lot, so you can talk to her about things. And when I told my partner, I was like, she tries to attack me. My partner's like, oh yeah, she does that. And I was like, did she do that to you? My partner was like, oh yeah, definitely. She loves me. She definitely knows how to kill me. She does this thing with her back paws where she tries to eviscerate me. So I'm like, oh my god, cat life. That's down. I think it's warm, and I think that's why. No, say, you're not gonna. We're gonna go through it again. Not again. No. You can't again. I don't know. Her tail's like this. Maybe she's mad at me. Now she's trying to get me to pet her. What is going on with you? Really, Bob, you can't. Okay, excellent. That's fine. We'll accept that. All right. Zay and I have reached an understanding, I think. She's just got her head on the return button. So I think we're open. I think we're safe. Compromise everything. She sees the music text. No. Come on. Lizzie. Oh, I know. I want you to move too. Come on. No, girlie, come on. Do you see what I deal with? This is my life. Oh, no, you're stuck on me. You're stuck. Hold on. Get your paw. Yeah, you got stuck. How do you guys deal with this? I don't understand having a cat. I don't know how you're supposed to deal. Like, she just lives here now, right? I can't find a cat. What do I do? What are you doing this? She's getting comfy. Oh my god. Sissy, come on. You gotta get up. You closed everything. Come on. There you go. That's what I did. I picked up the whole computer and then she's like,
So for those of you who don't remember those days of me and Zay, this is a major development. Do you understand that this is a major development? Look at that. So this, progress. This is special for us, me and Zay. All right? That's all I'm saying. You need to know where we came from. And this is why historical materialism is important, chat. To understand where we are today, you need to know where we came from. And that's where Zay and I came from. So, if Zay... No, don't climb on the computer. If Zay wants me to pet her and my allergies go cuckoo from it, that's fine. We'll deal with that. We will deal with that. That's okay. That's progress. Okay, I'm going to put my computer on the table because she looks like she's cozy on a pillow. But I do live in fear of her, and that is also important context to have. And that's why she messes up everything. And I'm like, that's fine. Okay. All right. We're in business. Let's get into this. She's making biscuits on a Fresno pillow. Okay, let's go. So, we're going to talk about North Korea. In the early 1990s, even before North Korea had any nuclear bombs, the United States began to realize that it would be the world's next nuclear threat. At the time, North Korea barely had enough fissile material, is that the pronunciation of that word, to build one or two crude bombs. It lacked the delivery systems that would allow such weapons to reach the United States, and it would be well over 15 years before the regime, right, would do its first nuclear test. That's a good drinking game. Anytime you're talking about North Korea and somebody says the regime, take a drink, right? So, concerned government officials and observant journalists recognized that North Korea was intent on obtaining nuclear weapons and would likely become a source of regional instability. This is really funny because who the fuck is North Korea? Who the fuck is the DPRK ever destabilized? Why are they a source of regional instability? The United States went into Korea, divided it in half, tested napalm on people there, and slaughtered a bunch of civilians, committed genocide, imposed a dictatorship, caused war, blockaded them, cut them off from being able to trade with their neighbors. How the fuck is the DPRK the source of regional instability? What the fuck is that? Where are they getting this shit from? What? The United States is the source of regional instability in East Asia and West Asia and Latin America and Europe. Like, what? It just kills me. These fucking people. So, All right, whatever. They had some bullshit. 3.5 decades later, North Korea has blown past even the most pessimistic predictions of its nuclear development. It has amassed 50 nuclear bombs and stockpiled enough plutonium and highly enriched uranium to build 40 to 50 more. And has developed nearly 20 different delivery systems, including long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach targets in the United States. It's actively pursuing ballistic missiles that can be launched from nuclear submarines, whose range and ability to evade detection improve North Korea's ability to strike back, even if the United States attacks first. That if is really doing a big when the United States inevitably attacks them first, I think is the proper way to frame that. So I think this is so funny. We're not even that far into it, but this idea that North Korea is a huge threat to us, right? This is how it's always presented. Yo, the DPRK, what if they nuke us? What if they nuke us? Why would they want to nuke us? Okay, and nobody wants to mention that. Why? Why would the DPRK be so intent upon developing nuclear technology? Why might they want to have the ability to nuke the United States? Nobody wants to talk about that. Why is there a DPRK and an ROK? That's weird. Nobody wants to talk about that, right? Yeah, because we want to fucking kill them. Because we want to kill them. Because the United States government is still at war with Korea. The Korean War ended in an arms agreement, like, okay, disarmament, well, not even disarmament, just, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're like, we're not gonna fight with each other anymore. The fuck is the term? Whatever the case. It never officially ended. Armistice, thank you. That's it. It never officially ended. We're still technically at war with them. We got those stories coming out, like the Marines, right? U.S. Marines kill North Korean fishermen. This story just broke September 5th, 2025. Top secret SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea in 2019 fell apart and they just slaughtered a bunch of innocent fishermen in North Korea. Like, we did this for profit. We did this because we were afraid that Korea would go communist, and then we launched a massive anti-communist extermination campaign and killed a bunch of civilians. Absolutely wild. Nobody talks about that. It's never included in here, right? So, you know, very telling of the bias. So they want nuclear weapons because they know that having nuclear weapons protects them from the United States trying to finish the job and wipe them off the map like we wanted to. And nobody discusses this. And when people even have the audacity to be like, well, North Korea is not a rich country, how dare they spend so much of their budget on weapons, on the military? It's like, why do you think they have to do that, ding dong? Because the world's greatest militarized superpower wants to destroy them. They have to do that to survive. And it's because of the United States as well. Nobody fucking says this ever. Nobody fucking talks. Yeah, Pisces troll. Meanwhile, the U.S. Marines show up in the DPRK, shoot some fishermen, and run away. Like fucking losers we are. The fisherman article, here, let me pull this up for you guys. I'll get you a tiny URL for it. And this is, people don't understand this. Americans don't understand this. Like, we are still at war with the DPRK. And imagine how it feels to them, okay? Just, like, really get yourself in this state of mind, if you haven't had this thought exercise yet. You were a country, all of Korea. You were basically colonized, taken over in terms of imperialism by Japan. Japan treated you horribly, sexually enslaved your people, enslaved some of your other people into work conditions, tried to destroy all of your culture. Japan finally has to surrender you. Yay, you have your independence. You're ready to be independent. And the United States is like, well, no, because if you're independent, you might be more left-wing than we want. And then shows up very often fulfilling the exact same roles that Imperial Japan fulfilled in your towns and your streets. Then furthermore, takes it one step further, divides your fucking country in half, imposes a military dictatorship in the South, commits genocide, slaughtering people with left-wing politics there. And then when the other half of your country attempts to liberate you and expel the Americans from your land, what happens? You go to war with them. The United States goes to war with them, rather, and napalm, tests napalm on women and children, destroys, bombs 80% of the infrastructure there. I was using nuke metaphorically, but I'm like, I can't even use nuke metaphorically. I was like, nuke's the infrastructure, but no, because the idea that we might literally nuke these people was on the table. We had just nuked Japan. These people, they just watched the United States nuke Japan, and now that same army that just nuked Japan is testing napalm on their women and children. Is leveled 80% of their infrastructure, turning it into something that looked like Gaza, right? killed 20-25% of your entire population in the north, and then you finally reach this tacit armistice, right? What's the first thing you're going to be? You're going to put as much money as you possibly can into your defense so that doesn't happen again. So none of these stories are really presented, though, when we talk about why the DPRK spends so much of its money on its military. That's for a reason, and it's rational. That is rational. That makes sense given what we did to these fucking people, right? So very, very wild that nobody mentions that, and I hate that. So they say that North Korea is actively pursuing ballistic missiles, blah, 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 blah. Pyongyang has tested nuclear weapons 6 times, and its various delivery systems more than 300 times. Cool. The United States dropped nuclear weapons on civilian populations nearby North Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un intends to develop a modern nuclear weapons arsenal the size of that of France or the United Kingdom. Our allies, by the way. We don't have a problem with France or the United Kingdom having nuclear weapons, but God forbid fucking North Korea, who actually needs to defend itself, does. Who the fuck is France and the United Kingdom currently defending themselves from? Like, come on. They're going to be the aggressors on the global stage, if anything. North Korea is playing defense, and they're not even allowed to have the same weapons that the offense team's allowed to have, right? Each of which has over 200 nuclear weapons. He's well on his way. In return for North Korea's provision of thousands of combat troops, millions of rounds of ammunition, and hundreds of ballistic missiles in support of Russia's war in Ukraine, again, the framing, Russia's war in Ukraine, let's be absolutely fucking for real. The United States war between Russia and Ukraine. That's what's really going on over there. Moscow is helping Pyongyang surmount the technology hurdles that prevent Kim from building the nuclear arsenal of his dreams. God forbid these people who are continuously fucked with by the United States team up to try to defend themselves from us, right? It's really, really unreal. It's a lot's happening here. So, since the potential nuclear threat emerged in the early 1990s, by the way, the nuclear threat from the United States emerged in 1950. That happened way before, 40 years before North Korea ever tried to flex its might with nuclear capabilities. The United States and North Korea's strategy across 7 presidential administrations has been driven by the logic of preventing nuclear proliferation. What came to be called CVID, complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. And this is so fucking hypocritical that we do this shit, man. The United States is like, nobody's allowed to have nukes but us and our allies. Like, what fucking weirdo psychopaths are we, right? It's just so transparent. And the fact that any American doesn't see it for what it is. Why are we allowed to have nukes and nobody else in the fucking world is? Come on. Come on, bro. How does that fucking make sense? American negotiators dealing with North Korea have repeated the same mantra. With denuclearization, all things are possible. Without denuclearization, nothing is possible. Why the fuck would you ever give up your nukes if you were North Korea? The United States already colonized you, already destroyed 80% of your country, already killed nearly a quarter of your population, including civilians. Why would you give up the one weapon you have, the one defense system you have against the United States government? It's just so completely fucking batshit crazy and unrealistic to ask anybody to do that. It's crazy. It's insane. Love. I am Destin. Why would you love? World peace, millennial heart. It's just insane. It's just insane. And the United States, arguably, if there's one country in the world who shouldn't be allowed to have nukes, it's the United States, because we fucking used them. We have fucking used them. Nobody else has used them. It's crazy. So I think that we should really not normalize this stance. This is an insane stance that the United States is allowed nukes and other people aren't. Washington's strategy has been to offer incremental incentives such as food and energy aid to North Korea. Now think about it. Why does North Korea need food aid? Well, because when we divided the country in half, we strategically left them without very much farmable land. Also, because we fucking put down a total blockade against them so they can't import this shit. Why? Why are we doing that? Because then we want them reliant on foreign aid so that we have some leverage. We can play our hand. And it's the same thing we're trying to do in Cuba. It's the same exact technique in Cuba and in North Korea. Cut them off from the rest of the world so that they're desperate, so that people are dying, so that people are hungry. And we know we did the whole Weapons Wednesday on sanctions as a weapon. And then they'll need us. And then they'll do whatever the fuck we want and we can take over. That is their goal. So this is happening in exchange for similarly scaled nuclear concessions. For example, a temporary freeze on operating reactors and a declaration of its nuclear inventory. And the United States has relied on economic sanctions, yes, to bring North Korea to the negotiating table and to pressure to comply with non-proliferation agreements. And I'm glad that they added that in there. I'm surprised they added it in there. But That is true. We use economic sanctions as a form of warfare. It's just absolutely wild that we cut this country off from absolutely everything, and then we talk about how little they have. And this is so... The average American burger-like brain is so ding-dong. They'll look at a place like Cuba, they'll look at a place like the DPRK, like North Korea, and say, well, look how poor they are. They don't have anything. Without realizing, yeah, it's because your country won't let them have anything. With the DPRK in particular, they have the audacity, burger-like Americans, to talk about how cut off and isolated North Korea is from the world. Yeah, no fucking shit. The United States government did that to them. They don't want to be this isolated from the rest of the world. If you watch My Brothers and Sisters in the North, which is a documentary there, they talk to everyday people in North Korea. Almost all of them are like, we want the blockade to end. We want the embargoes to end. We want to be able to engage with the rest of the world. And the United States government just won't let us. The UN, who helped the United States do this to Korea, by the way, just won't let them. And it's very, very, very sad and tragic. And it's fucking ridiculous that any American has the audacity to talk about North Korea being isolated, right? We did that to them. It's the same thing when we talk about, why can't they travel more? I don't know, probably because all the fucking UN countries put this massive blockade against them that included passport restrictions. And they have one of the weakest passports on the planet. Their passport is as weak as Palestine. They can't leave the country because your country won't let them show up. And this is another thing. I'll show you guys this too if this is new information to you too. It's just so disgusting the way we talk about this. Yeah, so this is the passport index for North Korea. Everything in red means that travel there is restricted. They have to apply for visas or they straight up can't get a visa. Different application processes are easier or harder, right, depending. So, yeah, you know, it's pretty bad. And if you look, the blue and the green are the easy places for them to go, okay? So what is this? We're looking at 43 countries that's easy for the DPRK to travel to. All right, their mobility score is 48. All right, their passport power rank is 85. Let's look at the United States by comparison. It's reversed. The amount of places that Americans can't go is 40. It's around the same as the amount of places that North Koreans can go. Our passport power rank is 9th. We're 9th in the world. The DPRK is 85th. Right? Mobility score 168 compared to DPRK's 48. And this is most people don't understand that to go to another country, you need two different permissions. You need permission from your country to leave, and you need permission from the other country to come there. Right? You need both of those permissions. And very often, if you are from the West, your country is powerful. So it has good relationships with these other places, and it's easy for you to travel there. You have the expectation you'll be allowed in. The idea you might not be allowed in doesn't even occur to you. Other countries in the world don't have this. It's very, very challenging for them to leave. So we have the audacity to cut them off with these sanctions, to try to force their hand into negotiating with us, to give up whatever military power they do have to defend themselves so that they are completely at our mercy and we can just take them over. That's our goal. And then we have the audacity to judge them for not being able to go places when this is what the map of their potential mobility even looks like. It's so cut off. It's so cut off, right? And we know they do go to Russia and China. China is red, but China has a special visa program for people from North Korea that makes it a little easier for them to go there, so they have more travel there. Yeah, the DPRK currency is basically worthless other places. They have special economic deals with China that are unique. But it's just ridiculous what we do. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, that is relevant to all these talks about the DPRK and nuclear weapons and how we present them as these crazy people with nuclear weapons when they are just doing something very, very rational, which is trying to defend themselves from us. And we have told them and made it abundantly clear we want to destroy them. And we are currently actively trying still to destroy them, including with economic sanctions, blocking them, cutting them off from the world to try to force their hand. And we don't care if they starve to death in the process. So the size and sophistication of North Korea's nuclear arsenal, which I would just want to clarify, thankfully they're not dealing with food insecurity on any sort of major level today. Back in the 90s, they did when they had the natural disaster that wiped out their arable farmland, their productive farmland. That's when we tried to starve them to death. Today, they don't really deal with food insecurity like that, thank God. So the size and sophistication of North Korea's nuclear arsenal today shows that these approaches have failed. In addition to inconsistent U.S. policy and a lack of attention to North Korea amid perennial crises elsewhere in the world, the United States, again, I just want to, inconsistent U.S. policy and a lack of attention to North Korea amid perennial crises elsewhere in the world. Who do you think is causing perennial crises in the rest of the world? That's the United States. The United States is destabilizing the entire world. So this wording is very interesting and passive, right? It's this idea that the world is just always in constant political flux. No, the United States is constantly putting the world in political flux. And that goes unmentioned here as well, right? The United States has struggled to implement and enforce denuclearization agreements because of a lack of a buy-in both from North Korean leaders and U.S. presidents. I mean, yeah, why the fuck would North Korea want to agree to give up their defense system against us? That's crazy. Partisan divides in Washington have also forced each new administration to restart the negotiation cycle. Again, and this is one of the things, we talk about the one-party system. You know, that's a little bit of a misnomer. Like the DPRK, for example, currently has 3 different political parties in their assembly. It's not really a one-party system, but what it actually means is that they're all opposition parties. They're working together to accomplish common goals. And that's why when we look at China, we look at DPRK, it seems like they're able to accomplish so much in such a relatively short amount of time. It's because without the opposition party system, they actually are able to get things done. And that's one of the benefits of a centrally planned economy and what we call a one-party system, but it just means your parties aren't oppositional. Also worth mentioning the DPRK, lots of people are in more than one party. But you know, look at this. We're admitting that the party system we have here in the United States prohibits us from even reaching our goals, which thank God, because our goals are evil as fuck. But it's very interesting. That's an inefficiency of the democratic system that exists under capitalism, as opposed to the efficiencies of the democratic system that exists under communism. So I just think that's interesting that they pointed that out. So Pyongyang, he says, has repeatedly acted in bad faith by growing its nuclear programs and reneging on its own commitments. I mean, fuck, that's not bad faith, babe. That's survival. That's smart. That's good faith. Yeah, they're not even doing submit or die. They're doing submit and die, Ghost in this House says, which is correct. Ultimately, a dearth of trust between North Korean and American leaders dating back to the Korean War, reinforced by many unsuccessful negotiations and agreements, has made it impossible to rein in Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions. Are we going to talk about why? Are we going to talk about what the Korean War was? We got a hyperlink where you can learn more. Maybe because the Korean War was the United States illegally occupying the Korean peninsula and trying to kill everybody. Maybe that's why North Korea doesn't exactly fucking trust us. I don't know, just a thought. The one-dimensional focus on non-proliferation is also hamstring the United States in other areas of importance in which it could negotiate, such as reducing the size of North Korea's conventional military or improving human rights. The use of economic sanctions as a primary tool of diplomacy, moreover, has not curtailed the nuclear program and has only hardened resolve in Pyongyang. Yes. Because, yeah, you're trying to kill them and they know that. They're not fucking stupid. So the United States cannot continue the same approach, according to this analyst. Doing so will only make its failures more acute, nor can it stand aside and do nothing, because North Korea's nuclear arsenal is increasingly able to target the U.S. homeland, and a stronger North Korea can flex its military power to help U.S. adversaries, as it is doing by supporting Russia and Ukraine. Yes, God forbid other countries have a fighting chance against the United States and NATO trying to destroy the entire planet. The challenge is now even more daunting than in the past, with plentiful trade in energy and food with Russia and China, and combat experience and weapons technology from the Ukraine war. North Korea is much stronger in a position than it was in 2019, the last time President Donald Trump and Kim met to negotiate. And it's also funny, liberals, because Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un met and negotiated, liberals think that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are best friends or something. I don't know if you guys have seen this. They think Donald Trump loves Kim Jong-un, which is crazy. In the Epstein files, they're literally talking about trying to overthrow Kim Jong-un. Like, I don't know what liberal needs to hear that, but Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump aren't friends. It's absolutely crazy that they think this. C. Welp says 18 out of 22 major cities flattened, 2 buildings left standing in Pyongyang. We destroyed these people's homes. It's so fucking gross what we did to these people. Yeah, they're bestie like Hitler and Stalin. What do you mean? Smash Ultra says exactly. Yeah, they honestly think they're like best friends. And then Donald Trump did say that thing where he was like, "Why don't my people love me the way Kim Jong-un's people love him?" But that's just Donald Trump being jealous of Kim Jong-un's riz. I don't know what to tell you. Like, people in North Korea love Kim Jong-un because the Workers' Party gives them free houses and food and healthcare and helps defend them from the world's greatest super threat, the United States, right? DPRK win. Exactly. Like, imagine how much people would like Donald Trump if he gave everybody free houses and healthcare and education and food and beer rations. We'd all fucking love him. Right? But he doesn't get that. That's why they love him, you fucking ding dong. So he goes on and says the United States should not renounce denuclearization, but policymakers must acknowledge that it is now a distant objective. Moving forward, Washington needs a new strategy that does not let the long-term goal of denuclearization get in the way of its more immediate national security needs. These include protecting the homeland, reducing the number of U.S. adversaries, minimizing the chances that North Korea would launch nuclear weapons first, and weakening the ties between Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang. Well, as long as you're trying to weaken the ties between Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang, you are never going to minimize the chance of North Korea being an adversary of the United States. I'm sorry. Like, there's this idea that the United States, that NATO, that the Western powers aren't the biggest threat to global security, that they are a highly, highly militarized force of evildoers hell-bent on controlling and destroying the planet. The idea that Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang would form an alliance, that China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, don't forget Iran, would somehow be united in their goals of stopping this political adversarial force from dominating the entire planet. The idea that that is unfathomable, or that doesn't seem realistic, it is frankly delusional. That's a delusional position for anybody in the United States to have, right? The idea that you would form a massive, massive alliance of these powerful, powerful places to go after your political enemies, NATO, and expect them not to organize similarly is just crazy. Like, I'm sorry. You know that's going to happen very obviously. Just weird. And so if that's the goal, is to weaken that alliance, I mean, I guess strategically that's a smart goal, but anything you do to weaken that alliance is just going to make those people hate you more. So instead of making denuclearization a prerequisite for any negotiation, the United States should open conversations with Pyongyang on arms control agreements, limits on nuclear testing and missile production, crisis management mechanisms, and bans on the transfer of nuclear weapons or technology to others. It should also strengthen deterrence and defense with regional allies to gain their support for this new strategy. In other words, the United States needs a cold peace with North Korea, a relationship short of normalization, but that prioritizes open dialogue to avoid miscalculation and escalation. Now, the question remains, why not normalize? Why not just cut your L's, admit defeat, and normalize relations with North Korea? The same way under Kissinger wanted to normalize relations with Deng and China, right? Why not just do that? That seems like the more rational thing to do, right? You lost. You tried to defeat North Korea. They got nukes too fast. You lost. The only way you're going to get it now is if you guys go into full-scale nuclear meltdown mode. Which you don't want to do, United States. So why not just fucking take the L and just normalize relations and have the same kind of relationship with North Korea that you have with China? North Korea also, it's worth noting, has a pretty thriving manufacturing sector. I know that from apparel work, that they have a pretty thriving apparel manufacturing sector. If the United States still continues, maybe like not intelligently, from my perspective, to avoid wanting to manufacture our own goods in any capacity, that's a built-in potential trade partner that would be advantageous for the United States to do business with as well. The answer to this, obviously, is that you don't want too many communist places getting powerful. And while American politicians were too ignorant about the nature of Marxism and Marxism-Leninism to understand how the Dengist reform policies were not a move towards capitalism, there's no way to look at North Korea and think that they are moving towards capitalism. They have that special economic zone, right, for trade they do with China, but it's because it's too expressly communist. It's not. There's no idea that the Americans can even delude themselves into or fool themselves into thinking this isn't a communist place. Unlike what the liberals tell you, obviously. But, that's why. They can never normalize relations with North Korea because it would be normalizing communism. And if you normalize communism, you open the door for more places to have worker revolutions. And it's really what they're saying here. They can't normalize the relations with North Korea, even though it is the thing that rationally makes the most sense for the United States government to do at this time. Bye, MEB. The world would be a safer place if North Korea shed its nuclear weapons. Hard disagree. But getting it to give up its arsenal is simply not within reach anytime soon, and proceeding as if it were would be detrimental to national security. The idea that the world would be a safer place if North Korea didn't have weapons is crazy. The world would be a safer place if the United States didn't have weapons. Right? We're the only country that's ever used them. Washington needs to reorient strategy towards North Korea so that it can achieve more immediate gains, reduce tensions, and make the world safer now. The best strategy for avoiding a hot war with a nuclear North Korea is to preserve a cold peace. So the section is called Never Gonna Give You Up. Kind of cute. Okay, Poppy. An undeniable fact underpins North Korea's successful pursuit of nuclear weapons. 3 consecutive leaders, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un, were determined to build a nuclear arsenal at any cost. And again, we know that the DPRK has collective leadership, that people are in charge of different areas, etc. So to say these are 3 consecutive leaders, all these people have been leaders of North Korea, but, even the way it's worded, it doesn't really take into account the fact that, hey, they have different branches of government that do different things with different leaders in them. And really the assembly is the highest arm of government, right? And they have the power to elect and recall these people, not the other way around. But, we can't expect that kind of clarity from somebody affiliated with the U.S. government. So it was never North Korea's intention to get rid of its nuclear weapons, regardless of the agreements it entered that suggested it might. In 2006, when I was deputy head of the U.S. delegation at the 6-party talks in Beijing aimed at denuclearization, one of my North Korean I can never pronounce this word. Interlocutors. Oh, Autistic Batty has the thing about the alliance. We're gonna pull that up for later. Told me bluntly, we will never give up our nuclear weapons. Smart. Interlocutors. Yes. Okay. Interlocutors. The United States had attacked Afghanistan and Iraq, he reasoned, because they didn't have nuclear weapons. North Korea was not willing to tempt the same fate. Exactly. Kim Il-sung, the first leader of the modern North Korean state, recognized the awesome power of nuclear weapons in 1945 when, as a guerrilla fighter in the mountains of Manchuria, he witnessed how the atomic bombs the United States dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki ended Japan's brutal colonization of the Korean peninsula. Once in power, Kim signed a nuclear cooperation agreement with Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev in 1959 and pleaded with Chinese leader Mao Zedong for nuclear weapons after China successfully tested them in 1964. Mao denied the request. The next year, however, Kim began operating a small experimental research reactor supplied by the Soviet Union. According to declassified CIA satellite imagery, Kim then raised and excavated large plots of land, far more than what was needed for a simple research reactor, at what would eventually become the expansive Yongbyon complex, North Korea's main nuclear site. The Post-News rip starting. Contrary to popular belief, the country's nuclear program did not start as an insurance policy after the end of Cold War. Kim's intentions were evident more than 3 decades later. Okay, that's a big guess. North Korea covertly built its nuclear program while repeatedly signing denuclearization agreements with the United States. Pyongyang's unrelenting drive for weaponization lay at the heart of every nuclear crisis of the past 3 decades. I would say the United States' unrelenting drive for weaponization has been at the heart of every, not just nuclear, but crisis of the past 3 decades, certainly. But okay, interesting spin. Regardless of which American president was in office or what tactics Washington pursued. In 1994, President Bill Clinton demanded that North Korea refrain from starting a campaign to harvest weapons-grade plutonium. When North Korea did so anyway, Clinton considered a military strike to take out the Yongbyon complex. But as the administration was contemplating its options, former President Jimmy Carter accepted Kim Il-sung's invitation to visit North Korea. Carter and Kim established the outlines of a deal that became the agreed framework signed later that year. North Korea froze the operating reactor and stopped construction on 2 additional reactors in return for heavy fuel oil, a byproduct of crude oil that North Korea could use for energy, and 2 light water reactors, a more modern nuclear reactor whose fuel cannot be easily converted into weapons. So again, this is how they talk about, think about how they talk about Russia, about North Korea, about Iran. They talk about them like they're insane people who are flying off the handle, who are unpredictable, who are hell-bent on militarized destruction of others. Now, you think about it, you're like, these are not countries that start conflicts with other places. These are not countries that start wars with other places. Russia, a little bit more arguable, but a lot of times I think the United States and the Western world has made Russia a caged feral dog in a corner, barking and biting because it reasonably thinks it's going to be attacked or harmed at any moment, right? And they're more, don't fuck with me, I'll fuck with you first, which I have the same personality. I understand that. But yeah, very few people are talking about the fact that these people are terrified of us, and they are not violent entities. They're defensive entities. They are trying to defend themselves from us because we are the aggressors, because we are the violent force, because we are the crazed psychopaths licking blood off a knife, running around the planet, trying to slaughter anybody who gets in our way. Like, we are the baddies. We are the bad guys. And nobody seems to position it that way. They want to position North Korea. They want to position China. They want to position Iran. They want to position Russia as being bloodthirsty psychopaths. These countries that don't start conflict, aside from Russia, don't start conflict at all. Russia, there's some you can choose how you want to interpret start conflict, right? I would say that Russia's actions certainly aren't unprovoked. They're provoked in many ways. But that's never talked about either. So NATO is just a coked up cop in a Punisher t-shirt. Exactly. It's just absolutely astounding that this is not the general understanding that any literate adult should have of the world. It's shocking they're able to pull off this narrative. Many observers attributed the collapse of this agreement in 2002 to hawks in the George W. Bush administration who wanted to sabotage the Clinton-era success. But the real cause was Pyongyang's secret purchase of materials to build an alternative uranium-based nuclear bomb. As well they should have. As well as was rational and made sense for them to do. Right? And this is North Korea's estimated nuclear warhead stockpile from 2016 to now. And this is why North Korea does not get the Iran treatment. This is why. They don't get the Venezuela treatment. Right? This is why. We can blockade them, but the United States isn't getting on the news telling North Korea they're next the same way they would with Cuba. It's because of this. It is because of this. This is what has protected them. So the six-party talks hosted by China and attended by Japan, North Korea, Russia, South Korea, and the United States produced a second major denuclearization agreement in 2005. The countries at the talks again promised to provide North Korea with heavy fuel oil and light water reactor, as well as diplomatic normalization, economic assistance, and regional security assurances in exchange for Pyongyang's freezing, disabling, and dismantling all of its nuclear programs. Fuck no. But this is not a deal I would ever take. This is a crazy deal. Yeah, everybody in the global south should get a nuke for sure. This is insane. So look at Ukraine took the same kind of deal. They agreed to turn over former USSR weapons, right? In exchange for the United States looking out for them. And look what happened. The United States fucking destroyed Ukraine. Sent them to war to die with Russia for American profit. Right? Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Very, very weird. Yeah, not working out for Ukraine. Ukraine's a fucking cautionary tale. We'll take your nuclear weapons. We'll stage a color revolution. We'll do a coup if the color revolution isn't successful enough and doesn't take. We'll start putting people from the literal State Department in charge of all of your natural resources, your natural gas industry, etc. And then we'll send you to war with your neighbor so you guys can die for our convenience. And Mel May wants a nuke. I'm only actually, if anybody in our chat was going to get a nuke, I think it would have to be Bigatko. And the reason it would have to be Bigatko is because the pure erratic energy would make everyone on their best behavior constantly. Because you don't know what would upset Bigatko. So the smart move would be to give Bigatko the nuke. And then everyone's just minding their P's and Q's real quiet like and nice. Yeah, Bigatko the Fresno phobe would have to have the only nuclear weapon because of their unpredictable nature. That's what we would have to do. You have 9. Comrade Thuggin already has 9 nukes. See, but Comrade Thuggin, you're too reasonable. So we know you're too reasonable to use them. Bigatko! Who knows? I don't think Bigatko's in the chat to see this, which is probably for the best. Nobody can let them know how powerful they are. Yeah. Bigatko's got the nuclear codes in our chat. Alright, where did we lay off here? Okay, the Obama administration reached a new agreement on the last day of February 2012. Which became known as the Leap Day deal. Washington promised food, humanitarian support, and economic assistance to North Korea in exchange for a freeze on nuclear missile testing. But just weeks later, North Korea launched a satellite despite U.S. warnings that disguising ballistic missile tests as civilian rockets violated the deal. The short-lived agreement fell apart. But also, we don't know if the satellite they launched actually was a ballistic missile test. We just assumed. That's crazy. The short-lived agreement fell apart in early 2013 when North Korea tested a miniaturized and more powerful nuclear device, resulting in nearly 5 years of isolating the regime, with heavy U.S. and international sanctions on North Korea trade, business, political leaders, and financial transactions. I mean, I respect them though. They're just like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, United States government, and they're like, fuck them. We're just gonna do whatever we're gonna do. I mean, but when you hear about Iran trying to negotiate with the United States, Iran's like, why the fuck would we negotiate with you? You don't do what you say you're going to do. You do whatever the fuck you want. There's literally no utility in talking to you people. You're insane and you have no honor. You don't stand by what you say. So Iran knows this. Russia fucking knows this. China knows this. And North Korea knows it too. The GPRK is just like, yeah, whatever you say, United States, sure. Because they know the fucking United States isn't going to stick to it. So why would they? Why would they? Right? So Trump's first term summit diplomacy with Kim Jong-un also faltered because of North Korea's unrelenting pursuit of weaponization. Before the first meeting of the two leaders in Singapore in June of 2018, North Korea tested a hydrogen bomb and launched 17 ballistic missiles, including ICBMs designed to reach the United States. Although Kim committed to denuclearization in that meeting, he never followed through. Why the fuck would he? What incentive? And the two leaders were unable to strike a deal in two subsequent summits. From then through the end of the Biden administration in 2024, Washington continued to impose bilateral and multilateral sanctions, while Pyongyang conducted an unprecedented 107 missile launches. And in 2023, North Korea formally enshrined the possession of nuclear weapons in its constitution and announced a move to mass production of nuclear capabilities, which meant that it was ready to turn from developing and testing weapons to exponentially expanding its nuclear arsenal. I actually haven't seen the 2023 constitutional update. You guys know the GPRK updates their constitution with every new election of the assembly, so it's usually every 4 years or so they update their constitution. I haven't seen the 2023 one. The most recent one I've seen is 2019. So that would be something interesting for us to look at. Kim affirmed this direction in a speech to North Korea's parliament in March of 2026, when he declared that the government will continue to consolidate our absolutely irreversible status as a nuclear power. As well they should. Yes. Paradigm lost. Like Paradise Lost. He's got jokes, guys. He's got jokes. To effectively deal with North Korea, the United States must scrap the old approach of single-minded focus on denuclearization and over-reliance on sanctions. Although many policymakers have implicitly accepted this idea, none will propose it publicly because insiders in Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo see it as equivalent to surrender. Now again, what are these locations? Washington, the United States, big bad. Seoul, South Korea, occupied Korea by the United States and our corporate interests. Tokyo, Japan, who had previously held imperial control over Korea. They see it as the equivalent of surrenders. So again, this is for the people who hate us and call us campus. The camp is there. Everyone can see it but you. The camp is the United States, is South Korea, is Japan, right? That's the camp. The camp is Ukraine. The camp is Israel. That's the camp. And anybody denying that is just denying reality at this point, right? Yeah, Dustin might be a bot. The camp is NATO and our allies, exactly. They've got a formal fucking name for their camp. Camp NATO. The United States should not let perfect be the enemy of good. Denuclearization is a noble goal, but past policy failures in North Korea's dogged determination to obtain weapons, I wonder why, have made it unattainable for now. Washington needs to shift the logic of its strategy from disarming North Korea's nukes to achieving immediate goals that will make the U.S. more secure against those weapons. Protecting the U.S. homeland is the most pressing priority. Over the last 30 years, North Korea's ability to target the United States has evolved from remote possibility to real danger. You know, the thing that would probably protect us the most is not fucking with every other country on the planet and making them hate us. The range of some North Korean ICBMs extend to the continental United States, according to a 2025 report by the Defense Department and several U.S. intelligence agencies. Pyongyang already has enough launchers and missiles to overwhelm U.S. defenses. As the nuclear expert Ankit Panda pointed out, North Korea's 15 to 20 transporter erector mobile launchers, each armed with one ICBM, could deplete the entire U.S. stockpile of 44 ground-based interceptors deployed in Alaska and California that are designed to destroy these missiles mid-course. Up to 4 interceptors are needed to defend from each missile. The Defense Intelligence Agency has estimated North Korea's nuclear-tipped ICBM arsenal could grow to 50 within the next decade, which means the United States would need to have at least 200 interceptors to fully protect itself from a North Korean attack. Current plans to add next-generation interceptors will increase that number only to 64 by 2035. Ironically, the United States could reach this goal of 200 if they had a centrally planned economy, but they will not, right? They will not do any central planning because the free market anarchy god must be protected at all costs. Current plans to add next-generation interceptors, blah, 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 yes. As North Korea equips its ICBMs with decoy warheads to evade missile defenses or with multiple miniaturized nuclear warheads to overwhelm the system, the odds that the United States will be able to shield itself grow even worse. Starting conversations with North Korea to set limits on further testing, deployment, and proliferation of ballistic missiles and production of nuclear materials is necessary now, even if denuclearization remains a long-term goal. Washington also needs to reduce the number of adversaries it is dealing with. Yes, the United States faces a dizzying array. Oh my god, are we going to get it? China-Russia? We got China-Russia. Iran-Russia. Irina-Russia. That's what it is. Irina-Russia. Iran and Syria, and its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. U.S. defenses are stretched especially thin because of the war with Iran, and U.S. officials are moving some Patriot missiles, high-altitude anti-missile systems, and drones stationed in South Korea to the Middle East to compensate. This puts a premium on what former Assistant Secretary of Defense Eli Ratner has described as taking enemies off the board. Trump, hi, what is it? You gonna jump up there? Okay. Trump arguably tried to do this with North Korea during his first term by befriending Kim. He did try to befriend Kim. It didn't work. But Washington's singular focus on denuclearization precluded any serious discussion of test bans, arms controls, or political relations. Restarting talks with the goal of establishing a cold peace will more immediately serve U.S. interests. Data collected by the Center for Strategic and International Studies shows that periods of U.S.-North Korea dialogue correlate with fewer missile launches, nuclear tests, and military provocations. Yeah, no shit. Because this is the thing. All these countries we say are these psychopathic, evil entities in the world, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, when you look at their actions, they're quite reasonable. They're very fucking reasonable. All they want is assurance that the United States is not going to try to kill them. That's it. That's literally it. Right? That's all they want. So when you talk to them and you deal with them like they're people and you're chill with them, they're like, oh, okay, you're not going to try to kill us. They're afraid of us. They're fucking afraid of us. Right? And that's Iran or Syria from eating contaminated seafood. They're terrified of us. And that's what nobody is mentioning here. Trump arguably tried to do this with North Korea, as we talked about, but it didn't work. The increasing risk of nuclear first use across Asia also necessitates rethinking U.S. policy towards North Korea. Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared that he would use nuclear weapons first in any conflict. And China is embarking on a massive nuclear buildup that is likely to exceed 1,000 warheads by 2030. North Korea has also adopted a more offensive posture. Why? Because they're terrified of us, because we're erratic psychopaths. Pyongyang announced in 2022 that it was willing to use nuclear weapons first in a conventional conflict, and that it could use nuclear weapons based on warnings alone rather than in response to an adversary's attack, and that it was preemptively delegating authority to launch nuclear weapons down the chain of command if a strike were to take out top leaders. And again, remember how they tell you, oh, it's a dictatorship. Kim Jong-un's a dictator. Kim Jong-un's a dictator. So if Kim Jong-un's a dictator, why are they preemptively delegating authority to launch nuclear weapons down the chain of command? It's almost like there's an entire government structure with top leaders, a chain of command, and delegation of authority. How is any American reading this and coming away with it that Kim Jong-un is an evil dictator? I don't understand. How the cognitive dissonance is wild. So, North Korea increasingly believes it may have to use or lose its nuclear weapons in a conflict with the United States or South Korea. And again, like, I think to us, we think like, oh my God, the use of nuclear weapons would be like catastrophic. It would be catastrophic. It is horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. It has happened before. The United States did it. Right? So if North Korea were to use a nuclear weapon preemptively against the United States, they would only be sinking to the United States level. That's all that would be happening. The worst case scenario for North Korea is to act like the United States. Right? By any means necessary says it's not a fair response. Nations on the USA enemy list, no sovereignty can only exist after accounting for the deliberate barbarity of Western imperial capitalism. That's true, and that is actually a good distinction to make. Fear is an emotional response. This is a rational response. I think they are frightened of the United States government, but this is also a rational response to the known strategy and understanding of how the United States government interacts in a global geopolitical landscape. It's rational based on how the United States has shown it conducts itself, right? Yeah, common by any means win. So true. And that is good to point out. They're terrified of us, but it is, you're right, it's not a fear response. It's rational. And what's interesting about Bruce Cumings, who's the author, he's the former chair of the history department at University of Chicago. I don't love his writing. I think he's kind of a weird dude. I think he's a little conservative for my taste. But the whole point of his writing, his work on the DPRK, on Korea in general, is to get you to understand North Korea as a rational entity in the world. Whether you agree with him or not, whether you like them or you don't, whether you're a communist or not, he's certainly not a communist. His whole intent with his writing is to get you to understand that the DPRK is intensely rational in how it operates. And I think that is a noble pursuit. And I think that that is why his work is necessary to read, especially for people who don't really understand the DPRK and have bought into a lot of this propaganda. That, hey, even this pretty conservative dude can acknowledge, lay out, and explain how everything the DPRK is doing makes sense given their position geopolitically and their understanding of their enemy, the United States, right? So although North Korea doesn't publicize its nuclear doctrine, a CSIS study of nuclear-related statements from state news agencies from 1998 to 2023 found a shift from a focus on defense to offense. The weakness of North Korea's conventional military compared with the vastly more capable US and South Korean forces only adds to Pyongyang's incentives to rapidly escalate to nuclear conflict. The United States has held off on establishing crisis management hotlines because it doesn't want to recognize North Korea's possession of nuclear weapons. Delusion. Live in that delusion, babe. But the U.S. must develop direct communication channels to avoid accidental escalation that could trigger a nightmare scenario. Currently, the United States can communicate with North Korea only via phone in the demilitarized zone at the border between North and South Korea, on a phone that North Koreans rarely answer. I kind of fuck with that. The only way you can talk to North Korea is if you go to the DMZ and call them on a phone that they hardly ever answer. They're so offline. I love that for them. That's so cool. No phone addiction. It's so funny. I love it. Currently, it's the only way they can do this, or by sliding letters under the door of the North Korea office at the UN headquarters in New York, which are usually returned unopened. Why is the United States trying to talk to North Korea like an ex-girlfriend we cheated on? That is so fucking funny. I love that for the DPRK. Like, don't fucking talk to me. I want to hear from you. The United States is about to start sending them Venmos of $1 with massive notes. Chad, DPRK. So good. These methods are inadequate for staving off potential nuclear war. Maybe the United States should have fucking thought about that before we invaded their country, occupied it, divided it in half, and slaughtered them all. I'm just saying. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. That's what the DPRK said to the United States. You showed me who you are, I believe you. All right? They said boundaries. Yeah, they did. They're like, no, we don't deal with you. We want as little United States in our life as possible. Obviously. The DPRK. Exactly. Stop calling. Stop calling. Ugh. So wild. So to lower the risk of escalation, the United States could reaffirm its pledge to not use nuclear weapons first, which it made at the six-party talks. It could also encourage South Korea to tone down elements of its aggressive deterrent strategy. Yeah, that's to say the least. Such as Seoul's kill chain plan to preemptively take out North Korea nuclear facilities or threaten leadership decapitation. Also worth noting, the former prime minister of Seoul that just got kicked out, or of South Korea rather, that just got kicked out, he had actively been trying to provoke an attack with North Korea. So not only is North Korea, the DPRK, getting fucked with by the United States, they're getting fucked with by our weird proxies in the South as well. So instead, Washington and its allies could focus on what is known as deterrence by denial, a set of strategies that include setting up high-density missile defenses, regularly rotating U.S. nuclear weapons, capable fighter jets and submarines to the Korean Peninsula, and threatening precise and advanced conventional military responses to North Korean attacks. The wild thing is, if we just left them alone, they would not be trying to attack us. Oh my god. This is crazy. By signaling strong allied retaliatory capabilities while downplaying offensive threats that could trigger a use or lose mindset in Pyongyang, the United States and its allies could deter North Korea without provoking it. Literally, just stop fucking with them. Stop fucking with them. They'll be chill, man. They'll be so chill. It's crazy. It is also in Washington's interest to weaken North Korea's ties with China and Russia. Yeah, no shit. what is it, like century of American humiliation upon us, right? Age of American humiliation upon us. North Korea, China, and Russia are winning. They're fucking winning. China's certainly winning. North Korea, I think I've mentioned this before, but I think in the next 30 years, we're going to see a very different North Korea emerge. And I understand by that. The DPRK is going to be on its upswing in its growth era. The growing closeness between Moscow and Pyongyang is particularly worrisome. The defense agreement that Russia signed with North Korea in 2024 reinstituted Moscow's Cold War-era security guarantee to Pyongyang, which was removed from the friendship treaty after South Korea and the Soviet Union normalized relations in 1990. Russia is suspected of transferring high-end weapons technology, particularly for ICBMs and for nuclear submarines, to North Korea, which could allow Pyongyang's arsenals to survive a preemptive attack and be used to retaliate. Moscow has also been helping bolster Pyongyang's conventional military, munitions and drone industries, and missile systems. Chinese leader Xi Jinping, too, has increased his support of Kim. Beijing has been, in the words of Sidney Sealer, a former U.S. national intelligence officer for North Korea, aggressively unhelpful with Washington on coordinating policy with North Korea. China chose North Korea, very fucking obviously. And Xi gave the North Korean leader equal billing alongside Putin on the diplomatic stage at China's Victory Day parade in September of 2025. I know. I'm going to be like the most crazy, like gray-haired, like lunatic, like waving newspapers at everybody. So the United States needs to find some way to compel Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang to invest less in their relationships with each other. But we did this. We created these conditions. It's exactly the world we made. We made the camps, and we're mad at them for taking kindly to each other. We told them, bunk up, babes, you're at camp together, and now we're mad they're friends. Although Washington may not be able to fully break these alliances apart, it can create some friction between them. It can offer positive inducements to North Korea or Russia, such as lifting sanctions, amplifying disinformation to generate distrust among the three countries. Now, look at the wording. Amplify disinformation. They already are spreading disinformation about these three countries. They know it. They admit it. They talk about it all the time. Everybody knows it except for burger-like average Americans, apparently. They're like, we could do more disinfo. Let's spread more disinfo to try to make these people fight with each other. Or counterintuitively, the United States could try to trigger traditional North Korea fears of being entrapped by great powers by designating the Pyongyang-Moscow alliance as an enemy of NATO and EU countries because of its contribution to Putin's war in Ukraine. Again, Putin's war in Ukraine. Nobody talks about the United States' role in that war. Stigmatizing North Korea in this way might encourage it to reconsider its relationship, since Europe was its main cultural and economic gateway to the West before the 2022 invasion, and Kim may want to revive connections to the continent in the future. That was just like the limited amount of trade they're able to do. Like, I know from apparel, sorry, everything's very apparel focused for my job, but North Korea used to export a lot of clothing to like Sweden and stuff like that, which is interesting. Leaders in Pyongyang have shown they deeply fear overdependence on great powers. Jusha! In late 1950s, for instance, North Korea's excessive economic reliance on the Soviet Union pushed Kim Il-sung to embrace Mao as a hedge, and Kim Jong-un's dire need for Beijing's help to circumvent UN sanctions influenced his decision to meet with Trump in 2019. This big Gotco Dustin. Suspicious user restricted. American policymakers could also suggest that South Korea reconsider its indirect supplies of military equipment and ammunition to Ukraine in exchange for Russia distancing itself from North Korean war support. But this would not resonate well in Kiev and other European capitals. Yeah, this is why I like Mark so much. We both like talking about linen and coats. Managing the threats that North Korea presents and settling into a stable, cold peace with Pyongyang requires coming to the negotiating table. But what the United States wants out of a negotiation is not the same as what North Korea wants. Given all the economic... They're never the same things. That's why it's called a negotiation. Hello. Given all the economic, political, and military support it receives from China and Russia, Pyongyang has far fewer incentives to concede anything to Washington than it did when Trump last met with Kim Jong-un in 2019. Some of the traditional carrots the United States could use to tempt compliance in the past have also lost their appeal. North Korea is no longer interested in exchanging liaison offices, which take on some of the basic functions of embassies. The regime previously wanted this exchange as a symbol of its legitimacy, but it now feels that that move gives Washington too much access inside of North Korea while providing little added value because it already has a UN office in New York. What North Korea wants is reductions in U.S. troops on the Korean Peninsula. No shit. And why was this not mentioned earlier? Right? Which Pyongyang rightly sees as the primary symbol of the alliance between Washington and Seoul. Alliance, used very loosely. Neo-colony. So South Korea is a neo-colony of the United States, right? Big Gotko, were you here when we decided you're the only one who should be allowed to have nuclear weapons in the chat? It seems fair and balanced. I think it does. The United States is encouraging South Korea to significantly increase its defense spending, take over control of wartime operations from Washington, and absorb more of the burden of peninsular defense. Now, I just want to really say what this means. South Korea's military operates subordinate to the U.S. military still to this day. Okay? So, that's what they mean when they say to take over control of wartime operations from Washington. But South Korea increasing the defense spending, that's got to be seen as a major threat to the North as well. And it's crazy that they're not acknowledging that. The United States wants to transition to a larger air and naval presence in the region while reducing its ground-based one. It also seeks to cooperate with South Korea on nuclear-powered submarines, space and intelligence, surveillance, and artificial intelligence-driven warfare. U.S. media has reported the possibility that the United States may permanently remove a rotational brigade of 3,500 to 4,500 troops from South Korea. Again, we have thousands of American military personnel just there because they're a neo-colony of us. Although such changes would be seen as moves to strengthen the alliance, they can be aligned with negotiations with North Korea on other measures, including phased arm reduction, caps on deployment of multiple rocket launchers, and no-fly zones for drones. So the United States has a massive military presence right on the border of North Korea. They want South Korea to build up an even more massive military presence right on the border of North Korea. We have nuclear weapons. We have dropped nuclear weapons in the past. And we are looking at North Korea going, why are you so militarized? That's so weird. Just, like, drop it. Like, what's your problem? And it's like, we're their problem, babe. We're their fucking problem. And rightfully so. It's wild. Any strategy to manage the North Korean threat must retain allied deterrence at its core. Governments of Japan and South Korea are increasing defense spending to historic levels. Oh, yeah, somebody in the chat mentioned Japan, too, and I didn't read that out loud. But yes, improving joint military planning with the United States. Hello. Operationalizing trilateral missile defenses and working to bolster nuclear planning through channels such as the U.S.-South Korean Nuclear Consultative Group and the U.S.-Japanese Extended Deterrence Dialogue. Hello. Japan, the United States, and South Korea are bolstering their ability to fuck with North Korea, and we think that North Korea is the problem. It's just so unrealistic, right? To back this up, Japan, South Korea, and the United States could enact next phase missile defenses, which include seamless tracking between Japanese sea-based Aegis platforms and South Korean land-based THAAD systems, all these things. So we're allies, obviously, and this author is like, all three allies should commit to a collective defense declaration, so any attack on one of them would constitute an attack on all of them. So East Asia NATO. If NATO exists to ward off, basically, Russia, this person is saying we should have an East Asia NATO to ward off the DPRK. And China, probably too, right? Why not? Absolutely wild. The least bad choice, yes. Yahoo! Wait, what about I Am Dustin? Why is everybody mad at Yahoo, not I Am Dustin? I Am Dustin's the weirdo. Do you guys not see I Am Dustin? Do only I see I Am Dustin? It says suspicious user restricted. Maybe you guys can see it. Oh, Virgo. Okay, so you guys don't know this. While you guys are complaining about big Yahoo, Virgo and I are seeing this absolute psycho in the chat named I Am Dustin. It's so funny. I'm like, what's happening there? It's so funny. Yeah, they're still here for us. We're living in two different realities. Oh, did you guys hear the microphone move? Zay moved the microphone. Hold on. Noise. Dustin does seem kind of drunk, actually. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. It's just us. Yeah, you're right, Dustin. It's just you and me and Virgo. He's talking to us. We got a ghost. Okay, so this is what's happening. The United States could demand North Korea denuclearize or face the same fate that Iran has. What? Kicking our ass? In a very intense way that's publicly humiliating for the United States? What's the same fate Iran has faced at our hands? Like, what is that? North Korea is not Iran. It is a proven nuclear weapon state that could retaliate against the United States and its allies. North Korea's nuclear programs and delivery systems are also far larger than those in Iran. Yeah, because Iran wasn't developing nuclear weapons at all, as chat has taught me at the beginning of the conflict, right? In 1984, when Clinton considered a military strike, the United States might have been able to destroy Pyongyang's fledgling program with minimal consequences, but today, their arsenal is far too large. We can't. This is kind of, he winds it down with just saying the slightest sign of U.S. military action against North Korea will probably trigger massive escalation on their end, which I think makes sense. And I don't even think that it would be considered escalation given everything we've done to these people, right? So very, very interesting. So before we move on, we've got a few more minutes and we'll take a look at this Intercept article a little bit about the CIA running MK Ultra experiments on prisoners of war, if we have a minute. Or we can look at this, depending. Trump and Kim in quotes, from bitter rivalry to unlikely bromance. I don't know about that. Does anybody have any questions about the text or about North Korea in general? Anything they want some clarification on? Any thoughts they have? Anything like that? Before we move on. Here's something for the Hillary haters. How close are the DPRK and China? So, the DPRK and China are actually historically not that close, but they're getting closer. They are getting closer. Like in the article, they were just talking about how China just had this event, and they basically upheld Putin and Kim Jong-un as leaders from important allied countries side by side. So North Korea is becoming, the DPRK is becoming increasingly important in China. And people in China also have been very propagandized about the DPRK as well. If you go on Chinese blogs and stuff, you'll see average everyday people in China repeat the same weird things about North Korea that we've heard. The propaganda's got to them even in China. It broke through the Great Firewall, right? So the people of China are also going through a process of learning and unlearning more about the DPRK. It's a little easier for them because some people in China will literally go on vacation there and come back and be like, no, it's not like that at all. People from the DPRK go on vacation to China, and they're starting to get more exposure to each other, certainly. But I think during COVID lockdowns, that allowed a lot of misinformation to spread because people in China even were very cut off from the DPRK for 5 years or so. By any means necessary, says, that article didn't mention once that out of 14 nations bordering China, there's literally only one with U.S. military bases that could stage a land invasion of China. I bet money that relates to U.S. aggression in the DPRK. Yes, that makes sense to me. And I'm guessing nations bordering China, are you counting South Korea as bordering China? Or are you thinking of not Mongolia? my fucking geography, I'm like, Mongolia, no. Hegel's Big Dialecticals also is pointing out that Larry needs some financial help, household stuff. Kubashi Diva PRK. I'm gonna pin Hegel's message. Hegel, I just call you Hegel. Hegel's Big Dialecticals message. Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions before we move on? No? Okay, we'll move on. So, getting into this, why do liberals think that the DPRK and the USA are best friends? Clearly, we're not. We're not fucking cool with them, man. The United States is not fucking cool with them. We're freaked out. We want to still own Korea, very clearly. We hate them, and they're communists. We hate them for being communist as well. So, why do people think that? And it's because of shit like this that came out from liberals. Liberals, basically, they know they hate communists, so what's the thing they do? They try to tell you the Republicans are secretly communists. They try to tell you Donald Trump is secretly a communist. And what better way to do it than to associate him and affiliate him with a communist, Kim Jong-un, that everybody hates because he's a communist, right? Walmart Drug Lord, exciting. That's really good. Fort could never. So, Trump told the Philippine president, Rodrigo Duterte, we can't let a madman with nuclear weapons on the loose like that about Kim Jong-un. we have a lot of firepower, but he has more than he has times 20, but we don't want to use it. North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. It will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen, Trump said in 2017. 2 days later, a statement carried by North Korean state media said, we cannot have a sound dialogue with a senile man who can't think rationally. Only absolute force can work on him. This is a judgment made by our soldiers of the strategic force. I mean, again, DPRK, common win. True. How are you going to talk to this man, right? You can't talk to this man. And every time the DPRK releases a public statement, they're just spitting facts, which is also wild that the liberals haven't noticed this yet. Because they're always like, wow, even North Korea stands with Palestine. You're like, yeah, no shit. They'd be like the largest material supporter of Palestinian liberation and resistance since inception. Like, and I remember this. Like, oh, wow, even North Korea is calling him a senile man. It's like, yeah, no shit. North Korea is on the right side of history internationally every single time. Trump dubbed Kim a rocket man. I remember that, on a suicide mission. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and his regime. Trump called Kim a sick puppy, drawing cheers from a crowd. Kim welcomed 2018 with a New Year address in which he warned he had a nuclear button on his table and said the entire United States was within range of our nuclear weapons. A nuclear button is always on my desk. This is a reality, not a threat. And then Donald Trump said this, will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button and is much bigger and more powerful than his, and my button works. Also, food-starved, they were just bragging about starving these people to death or something. North's official newspaper dismissed Trump's swaggering as nothing but, quote, a spasm of a lunatic. The bark of a rabid dog. Clocked him. They clocked him with that one. Were they wrong? Kim released 3 U.S. citizens detained in North Korea in May of 2017, or 2018, I believe, which Trump hailed as a positive gesture of goodwill. Trump later said everyone thinks he deserved a Nobel Prize for his Peace Prize for his contributions to warming U.S.-North Korea relations. And Trump also described then Kim as very talented. This is what he is. This is like when Mamdani came to his office, right? Great personality, very smart, good accommodation, worthy negotiator. He's negotiating on behalf of his people, a very worthy, very smart negotiator, absolutely. We had a terrific day. We learned a lot about each other in our countries. Okay, Kim Jong-un out-negotiated Donald Trump. This is wild. Ready to meet, fantastic chemistry. Okay, so this is why they think this. But don't get it twisted. Donald Trump does not like North Korea or want communists to be in charge in the DPRK. Right? That's just not real. So, this article we have that's also just like a follow-up addendum is CIA ran MK Ultra experiments on prisoners of war in U.S. custody. Declassified documents confirm. For the first time, documents confirm the CIA carried out tests on North Korean POWs and planned for much more invasive experimentation. So just to like go back to how this conflict came to be, why we're in this situation with the DPRK, it's because of the United States doing imperialism. There's no other reason. All the Korean Peninsula, all the people of the Korean Peninsula wanted was to be left alone and to be in charge of their own country, to have sovereignty, and the United States wouldn't let them, right? We tried to take over their country after World War II. When the USSR objected, the UN decided to divide the country in half against the will of the people. That was supposed to be temporary. The UN and the United States wouldn't let them hold reunifying elections because they found that it was too full of communists and they didn't want the whole country to go communist. And then we committed genocide in the South. We slaughtered people in the South, imposed a military dictatorship. And when the North attempted to expel us and liberate their country from us, the United States, right? We responded by basically giving them the Gaza treatment, unfortunately. We leveled 80% of their infrastructure. We killed 20 to 25% of their entire population. We tested napalm. We did horrible things to these people. And that was the Korean War, right? That was the Korean War, the forgotten war. And all the DPRK has ever wanted is to be left alone, is to be able to be in charge of themselves in their own country without the United States trying to destroy them. Is this the Trump KGU love letter story? I think no, that wasn't about the love letter. That was about just like them talking to each other. Oh yeah, they call it like a love letter thing though. Yeah. Yeah, it's just them talking to each other. We committed war crimes. So when we look at this here in the United States, we say that the Korean War was a civil war, basically, between North and South Korea, that North Korea attacked South Korea, invaded South Korea. This is not the case. First of all, you can't invade your own country. That should have been one country. There never should have been a North and South to begin with. And second of all, when you talk to people from North Korea, they don't tell you they were at war with South Korea. They tell you that they, as Koreans, just Koreans, were at war with the United States. And that's not how the story is presented to us. Right? So the reason we're in this whole mess today is because of the many horrific things that the United States did to the people of Korea. The people of Korea, especially in the North, took umbrage with and tried to fight against, right? They tried to do this heroic thing and get rid of us, these evil aggressors from their land. And they put up a valiant fight. And when they talk about it, they'll tell you they won. They pushed the Americans out of their half of the country, at least. And it was a big win for them against a major imperial superpower. But yeah, the depravity of the things the United States government has done to the people of Korea knows no bounds. And I challenge people to learn about it, really learn about it without breaking down in tears, because it's so horrible what we've done to these people. Stern Sam says 30% of the population of the DPRK, 20% of the entire peninsula's population. That's interesting. I hadn't seen those numbers. That's very, very interesting, though. It would make sense. What we did to them. I'm going to show you guys some pictures. This is what we did to them. This is... We did horrible things to these people. We did awful things to them. I don't like this interface. I hate this interface. Okay. We ruined their homes. We ruined their everything. We didn't leave anything standing. When you look at these pictures, it reminds you of Gaza, right? And it's the same level of destruction, 80%. It's horrible. It's just absolutely awful. We forced their women into sexual slavery as well. Just horrible things we did to these people. So, the additional thing that we're talking about today now on top of that is Korean prisoners of war in the 1950s, right, from the Korean War, were subjected also to MK-Ultra experiments by the CIA while in American custody. The only reporting that previously referenced Koreans being used as guinea pigs for these experiments was from journalist John Mark's landmark 1979 book, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. Using CIA documents, Marx traced the now infamous MK-Ultra project to its start when it was known as Project Bluebird. And for those of you who don't know, MK-Ultra was a series of psychological experiments that the CIA did where they were trying to figure out mind control techniques, remote viewing techniques, all this weird psychic energy bullshit. It's pretty gnarly, and they tested massive amounts of psychedelic drugs on prisoners in the United States to see if they could hack their brains to make them psychic or something. Charles Manson was actually an early victim of these experiments when he was imprisoned for some petty crime thing before he went full-blown Manson cult. So very, very interesting. Weebcore says, now the generation who remembers is dying off. They're working overtime to erase the comfort women who were pressed into sexual slavery, destroying historic sites, graves, records, etc. Yeah. And we did this to the Korean people as well. MK-Ultra happened to the Korean people as well. And there's this picture of... I'm going to show you this picture. So this picture is Kim Jong-un crying. He's crying. Sky News has it. Good old Sky News. So Sky News, notorious propaganda slop rag, reported this as Kim Jong-un wiping away tears as he calls on women in North Korea to have more babies. No, he's actually crying. He's actually crying, reading about the sexual enslavement of Korean women at the hands of the Japanese and then the American soldiers. He's literally crying, hearing testimonies from women who were forced into sexual slavery by American soldiers. Return the reversing tank to the people. You guys want the tank back? you know what? You'll get 2 tanks. You'll get a forward tank and a backwards tank. Okay, I'll give you both. So this story is like really, really sad, really fucking sad as hell. But they're making it basically a lie that he was crying about something else, that birth rates or something, and that's what all this slop reporting is, right? Which is not real. This is not real. This is not what really happened. And he was listening to people like this talk about this, victims of the comfort women system. Now, I don't even know how this story got reported on this. Have more babies, be better comrades. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, this is not the real story. This is the actual story. On Facebook, East Mojo, that's what they have. Reading the stories of Korean comfort women. Yep. No, this video is often falsely labeled as showing DPRK leader crying over the birth rate. And if you speak Korean, I guess you can probably hear them talking about this, right? Which is when a lot of Korean-speaking people on the internet were like, that's not what's going on in this. And like, you can hear it, apparently. This is about a military parade. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we did horrible things to the people of Korea, including testing MK Ultra psychedelic mindfuck experiments on their prisoners. So in the books, Marx describes how in October 1950, 25 unnamed North Korean prisoners of war, again, people who were just fighting for the United States to leave them the fuck alone and stop massacring their people, to stop enslaving their women, to stop committing genocide on places like Jeju Island, right? These people were taken prisoner by the U.S. military. And they were chosen as the first test subjects to receive advanced interrogation techniques with the overt goal of controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation, trying to brainwash them, okay? So while MK Ultra is best known for its invasive experimentation like LSD dosing and torture, the documents confirm Korean POWs were the unwitting subjects of less splashy attempts at mind control, like being subjected to polygraph tests with plans for other invasive testing in the future. The declassified documents, which the NSA released between December 2024 and April 2025, are available through a special collection titled CIA and the Behavioral Sciences, Mind Control, Drug Experiments, and MK Ultra. I'll give you guys the link to this if you haven't seen this stuff before. Hi, Sissy. So the NSA archive website states that the collection brings together more than 1,200 essential records on one of the most infamous and abusive programs in CIA history. The first reference to Project Bluebird in the NSA's collection is an office memorandum from April 5th, 1950, addressed to CIA Director Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter. The document lays out the project's goals, required training, and budget, all while emphasizing the knowledge of Project Bluebird should be restricted to the absolute minimum number of persons. Uh-oh, watch your board. The memo includes detailed plans for interrogation teams and trained to utilize the polygraph, various drugs, and hypnotism for personality control purposes. And the teams were made up of 3 people: a doctor, a hypnotist, and a polygraph technician. They gave experimental instruments designed to covertly inject sedatives through the skin via jet injection. There's a request to investigate modification of a tear gas pencil and other devices of unestablished action. And this is a memorandum. Although the initial proposal mostly emphasized the potential for personality control, it's clear that CIA officials were also interested in broader, more ambitious outcomes. One document summarizing a special meeting between the U.S., British, and Canadian intelligence services notes the CIA's desire to research the psychological factors causing the human mind to accept certain political beliefs and determining means for combating communism, selling democracy, and preventing the penetration of communism into trade unions. So this is anti-communist behavior, very, very clearly. They wanted to find a way to stop people from wanting to be communists, right? Another meeting held on May 9th, 1950, called for the Surgeon General of the Army to place on the search list for the Nuremberg trials papers requests for information on drugs, narco-analysis, and special interrogation techniques. Okay, so one declassified memo emphasizing the importance of these projects gets more detailed, citing specific problems which can only be resolved by experiment, testing, and research. A few of these problems include: can we create an action contrary to an individual's basic moral principles? Can we make you do some shit you really don't want to do? Can we seize a subject and in the space of an hour or two have him crash an airplane or wreck a train? Can we turn a person into a suicide bomb, basically? Can we alter a person's personality? And if yes, how long will it hold? Can we guarantee total amnesia under any and all circumstances? Right? Very, very fascinating. Technicians arrived in Japan to carry out initial tests first, a few months after these questions were asked. These men tried out combinations of the depressant sodium amytal with the stimulant benzodrine on each of 4 subjects, the last 2 of whom also received a second stimulant, picotoxin. The team was attempting to induce a state of medically administered amnesia, and according to their reports, the experiments proved successful enough to pursue further tests. 2 months later, according to Mark's book, the Project Bluebird team began testing more advanced interrogation techniques on 25 North Korean prisoners of war in Japan. Notably absent from these classified documents is any proof that similar experiments were undertaken by enemies of the U.S. Central animated myth behind MK Ultra and Project Bluebird is the narrative of the American soldier who returned home after months of imprisonment by enemy forces, only to be revealed as a hypnotized double agent. I don't know if you guys know about this. This is actually really interesting. When American soldiers would get captured by the Vietnamese or by Korean forces, very often they would come out very sympathetic to the enemy. And the American government tried to pitch it like they had been brainwashed. Like, brainwashing was real, and the Koreans figured it out, and the Vietnamese figured it out. And they were brainwashing American soldiers into liking that. But really, when you talk to these soldiers, what they tell you is they're like, well, I had been told that these were bloodthirsty, evil, deranged animals, you know? And then I met them, and they were, like, nice. They, like, gave me food and water, and they were like, hey, so sorry your government has sent you to die in this fucking war that's, like, horrible. We know you're not your government. They just literally talked to them about communism and their liberation struggle and what they were trying to do. So then these soldiers would get released, and they'd come back to the United States, and they would be like, yeah, I don't hate them. Those guys were actually chill as fuck. And, like, actually the United States kind of sucks. So in order to... Sorry, Zay just slid the microphone again. But in order to make this make sense to the American mind, the American government had to position like they've been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed. They're doing mind control techniques over there, right? Because it was such a bad look to the American public. So that's when they were like, maybe we can do brainwashing techniques so this doesn't happen. Yeah, GI, your government has banded you, as Comrade Lilith is saying. Exactly. And it worked on people. They were like, wait a minute. Why are we fighting this war? I didn't even want to fucking come here. I watched my friend get exploded yesterday. And for what? And so it was very, very effective, just normal commie shit. Just what the communists normally do. Yeah. We stand with you. We're in favor of internationalism. We know you don't want to be here. We know your government lied to you. We know the problem is the power structure. It's the same as when Lenin came during World War I and said to the Russians, don't turn your guns on the workers of other countries to fight this rich man's war. Turn your guns on the owning class. Turn your guns on your oppressors. Your oppressor isn't a random other worker from another country. And that's the exact same thing that the communists in Vietnam would do, the communists in Korea would do when talking to captured American soldiers, and it was very, very effective. So this whole thing, American soldiers would return home after months of imprisonment by enemy forces in Vietnam, in Korea, only to be revealed as hypnotized double agents. It was because they're like, no, those communists fucking made sense. What was happening here? Why were we doing this? So throughout the Korean War, American moviegoers were screened films starring and narrated by future President Ronald Reagan. These films showed American troops being psychologically tortured by Chinese and North Korean soldiers until dangerous anti-democratic ideals were implanted in their minds without their knowledge. The knowledge most Americans have about these experiences are based on a work of fiction, The Manchurian Candidate, which was a 1959 political thriller. They also did a remake. When I was in high school, I remember I went and saw this in the theater. The remake of it's a pretty bad movie, but the original is a classic, right? So in this book that also had 2 film adaptations, American soldier returns home with a secret, and one that he himself isn't even aware of. While held captive by North Korean and Chinese soldiers, the American POW was brainwashed by enemy troops, unknowingly turning him into a sleeper assassin with the goal of being activated to kill the presidential nominee. As Project Bluebird transformed into Project Artichoke and later MK Ultra, the CIA's goal seemed to shift into one of beating the enemy at their own game. Essentially, programs surrounding psychological experiments were deemed necessary evils after our own troops were coming home hypnotized and transformed by our enemies. Just hearing about communism. That's it. Just hearing about communism, right? It'll do it to you. It makes sense if you actually listen to it. It fucking makes sense, right? So classified documents tell us what we're trying to really do here. In Japan and Korea, the army had used polygraph operator along with a team of psychiatrists and psychologists. They basically wanted to use this to try to create a conversation, right? And look at the polygraph from a scientific point of view. They didn't know how effective it was, blah, blah, blah. So in a 1983 witness testimony from CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb, who led the MK-Ultra experiments, he recalls receiving confirmation that after a thorough investigation, there was no evidence that any American POWs were subjected to drug-induced hypnosis at any point during the Korean War, right? They basically said they felt that the techniques the Chinese or Koreans used were not esoteric. They didn't depend on sophisticated techniques used in drugs and more technical means. They literally just talked to them. That's it. They literally just talked to them. And that's it. Is it glistening? Am I glistening? Okay. So, all right. It's almost 12 o'clock, which means I gotta get out of here and start my day. But this is a really interesting conversation about, obviously, how the history of our interactions with the DPRK, with the world, with the DPRK in particular, shape our understanding of their politics today. They continue to be intensely rational, right? The DPRK is intensely rational. And the United States has done and continues to do just the most fucking deranged things to these people on the planet. We have one thing Ghost in This Hell has been pitching us that I will watch on stream with you all before we go. Oh, Marxist Gamer Zero has one too. Okay, everybody. Yes, give us a few outro videos we'll watch on our way out here.
You don't want to hurt me. Okay, look, what is this about? Epstein flight logs? African freedom fighter? Libyan revenge for Gaddafi? One of Bill's victims that none of my atrocity... Random? Okay, well, you have options. There's a killable colored family down the street. You can... What? Oh, colored... God, you can't say shit anymore. Okay, fine. Super predators. Oh my God, we got Wokey McWokerton over here. I would have voted for Obama a third time if I could. You know that, right? Okay, well, what happens now? You gonna have your way with me? Don't do that. I'm desirable. You know how many men line up for this? God, Bill lucky as hell. He can't keep his fucking hands off of me. You better ask somebody. Hey, do not make that joke. I already know where this is going. God, you people are relentless. Look, is it money? Because I can give you money. I can give you some money. We don't have a lot of that. Trump doesn't blow for free, so. Okay. Look, I want you to think long and hard about if this is something you really want to do. You're creating a murder. You're about to have the might of every insufferable neoliberal rat film at your doorstep. A wave of pussy hats of which this world has never seen. You're creating 1,000,000 Hillary Clintons. Another 100 billion to Israel. You don't want to hurt me. Okay, look, what is this about?
American soldiers would intentionally throw grenades under the beds of their officers during the Vietnam War. You see, the soldiers were tired of pointless dying in the Vietnam jungles, and when morale was low, no one wanted to listen to the aggressive generals. That's why they started throwing grenades into the generals' tents, disguising traces of crimes as battlefield chaos. And this was later called fragging, a term still used today, but only in games. American soldiers would intentionally throw grenades under the beds of their
Last one. Big Gotco is requesting re-release Dustin. Free Dustin. Are you guys ready? for Juche Day? For Larry and Julia? Are you ready? Get ready. Get amped. We'll do the raid with the music going. We'll do it. We'll send you there now.